Jennifer Loppett and her ex-husband, Christopher, claim Jennifer's ex-boyfriend, James Nielsen, destroyed their home in a drunken rage.
Mr. and Mrs. Loppett, are you together or are you separated?
We're divorced.
When were you divorced?
In May of 2005.
So you are living separately or not living separately?
Separately.
I let her stay in my house and she rents from me.
You don't live there?
No.
When was this incident that brings you to court?
July 23rd.
So it was after your divorce?
Right.
According to your complaint, Mr. Nielsen was at that time a boyfriend of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of you had been out with some other friends. Subsequently, you invited a group of people back to your house, according to what I read, and you decided not to go back home. You decided to go and check in with your ex-husband. And it is your complaint that Mr. Nielsen, probably because he got angry, trashed the house you were living in. And since it's your ex-husband's house, he is a co-plaintiff. Is that about right?
Yes.
Who went out that evening?
It was me, Jim Nielsen, Jay, one of my friends, and Justin, another one of my friends. We ended up going to the bar, and then we all went to a restaurant to eat. And Chris was at the restaurant. And I called his phone, he called my phone, we were arguing.
What were you arguing about?
We just always argue about...
Well, you were
everything.
divorced already, so why were you arguing? Do you have children together?
No.
No.
Just because she still lives in my house and we still have contact with each other.
Why do you let her live in your house?
Because her and her son, I didn't want them to have to go out and find a place because it's more expensive.
Okay, how old a child do you have?
2.5.
Not your child?
No.
How long were you married?
Only like 5 months.
7 or 8 months.
Well, I'm not exactly sure because we got legally separated first.
We'll do 4 months.
All right, so you were arguing with Chris in July, on the 23rd of July. You were having dinner with a group of people. What happened next?
Justin, he was my roommate. I ended up having him and his friend drop me off at Chris's house.
Why are you laughing? What's funny?
Because I'm stupid.
Oh.
But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got dropped off at his house, and Justin said that he was going back to his friend's house to watch some movies.
I let one of her friends also move in there to help her with the rent.
So Justin was your roommate
Right.
in your house?
Exactly.
Okay, so you went to Chris's house, and your roommate Justin dropped you off at Chris's house.
Right.
How long did you stay at Chris's house?
I stayed the night.
Where was your child at that point?
At his father's.
Does he live with you or his father?
He lives with me.
Okay, so you stayed the night with your ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened when you got home?
My front porch railing was ripped off. The door frame was cracked all the way down the side, and the screws were out. The door was like, I don't know, it wouldn't shut. It was wide open. There was a huge hole in the wall. I have pictures.
I'd like to see the pictures.
There were eggs, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, cereal, bread, milk, cough syrup, all over my walls, all over my rugs.
What makes you think that Jim here was responsible for this damage?
Well, he always wears a wife beater under any of his shirts.
What does he wear?
Oh, wife beater. It's like a tank top.
What is that called?
It's a wife beater, isn't it?
shirt.
Is that what the T-shirt says on it, or is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
I never
believe.
heard that. Did you
Is
ever hear
what
that?
it's called?
Yep.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you.
A tank top shirt? Man wears a tank top shirt. It's called a wife beater?
It's just plain white. It's like a three-finger.
White or wife?
Wife.
Wife?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
So I found that in my house. It was covered in everything that was all over my floors and walls, and it was ripped off. And Jim, when he goes out and drinks and when he gets mad, he rips off his shirt and just throws it wherever. So I knew that was him. So I called him, and I told him, I said, Jim, I said, why'd you destroy my house? He's like, oh, I didn't. I'm like, you tell me you didn't destroy my house. I said, I found this. My entire house is trashed. He's like, I don't know. I didn't do it. I said, well, I'm calling the cops. So I called the police, and then after I was waiting for the police to show up, Chris called Jim back, and...
What happened when you called him back?
I called him up. I was angry. I knew it was obviously something to do with the fact that she left with me. So, and I knew it was probably him and his friends.
How long had you dated him before that evening?
3 weeks.
So,
Go ahead.
I called him up and, I was yelling. I'm like, what's going on, Come into my house, destroy my house. He goes, first he said I didn't, then he goes, well, I was mad. He said something like, I was drunk, I was mad. Something along those lines. Like, he admitted to it. We called the police. He admitted that the police officer came over.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to read it. Thank you. All right, Jim, I'm with you.
I didn't do nothing. I woke up with stuff all over me.
You went back to her house?
Yeah, Justin had the key. We were drinking there for a little bit, and I passed out. I wake up, I got all this stuff all over, eggs and stuff all over me. I didn't know what happened, holes in the wall and everything. And she's saying I admitted to it. I never admitted to nothing, to the cops at all.
You're John.
Yep.
Jim, John, and Justin. You were there that evening?
No, the following day I was there. They came to my apartment.
Who did?
I came to his apartment in the morning.
Justin's the one that brought it up to me. What I think is Justin had the key.
Listen, I don't care what you think. What you think is irrelevant. When you finish law school, you can get a job as a judge, and hopefully somebody will care about what you think. I just want you to tell me what you heard and what you saw. Go ahead.
I heard the house got trashed, and I took Justin back to the house, and I seen it.
Good. Thank you. Now, did you speak to the police?
Yeah, on the phone.
Listen to me. Do you know the police in Auburn, New York?
Yes.
You think they have it in for you?
No.
They don't know you. They don't care about you,
Yeah.
right? The police say that you said he was drunk and did some and all the damages.
I didn't say I paid for all the damages.
Okay, there we go. Mm-hmm. Oh, God, my life is so... What? Okay, what
I
did
said
you...
I would fix the damages.
Oh, okay.
If...
Just a second. So you didn't say you would pay for the damage, you said you would fix the damage.
Yes.
So that's what you told them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you acknowledge that you did some of the damage?
Yeah. Well, I didn't do all the damages,
I don't care whether you did some or all.
I'm not going to be, the one paying for all the damages, though, There's other people there.
Well, then this is what you have to do, Jim.
I call her and tell her I was going to come fix it, and she's like, oh, no, I can't do it now. I don't want you to fix it. I got somebody else to fix it.
What do you
I bought all this stuff to go fix it.
What do you do for a living?
Huh? I got 2 jobs. I work at MKM, and I'm an electrician.
What's MKM?
Trucking business.
But you're not a carpenter.
No. I could still do it, though.
Are you a brain surgeon?
No.
You wouldn't try that, would you?
No.
I mean, if somebody said, here's Bird, he needs a little brain surgery, you wouldn't say, I'm going to try. Not what I do, but I'll give it a try. Wouldn't do that. So they're entitled to have a professional carpenter fix that. They don't have to accept your offer to fix it yourself.
But the railing wasn't all broke. It came all off. The screws just fell out of it. That's all that happened.
When you commit a crime, sir, you don't get to choose your punishment.
Your Honor, I told him he could fix it, and we went a month of him not doing anything, and then I said, well, we'll just do a payment of $527, because that's what I estimated myself.
$527, an odd number to estimate.
But then...
Isn't that an odd number to estimate? But, $527, no sense. No. Just $527.
Just figured, yeah, I know.
All right, let me see the estimate. Come on, I had enough. Let's go. Got other fish to fry today.
Yeah.
This is not an estimate. This is something that you prepared.
That's all the personal stuff.
Eggs, your food estimate, your eggs, a pudding, Jell-O, mayonnaise, bread, a gallon of milk. You know what that comes under the category of? You know what you said to me before when I asked you why you were smiling? Remember what you said? Because you were...
Okay. Stupid. All right.
Go buy your own eggs. That is pretty stupid. Why didn't you take pictures of the way the rest of the place looked? Hummer?
Because Chris went and bought a camera, and we were supposed to take pictures of the house while it was fully destroyed before I cleaned it. And he said, well, since the cops came and Jim admitted to doing it, then we don't need to take pictures, and would not take it out of his car
Why
to take
not?
pictures.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. All right. Did you get the place fixed?
We got everything cleaned up, but we didn't get it fixed yet. Not all the...
I cleaned the house. I didn't get anything fixed yet.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,500. That's all. Don't be stupid.
Are excused, you may say.
Gary Gallahan is suing his daughter, 22-year-old Rachel Gallahan, and her fiancé Oliver Ross for a loan to buy a carpet cleaning van.
Mr. Gallahan, this is your daughter, and this is her boyfriend, fiancé, whatever it is. They have children together?
Correct.
But they're not married, but they live together.
Yes, ma'am.
In any event, according to you, you made a loan to them in order for them to start a carpet cleaning business. You made a loan to them to get a van, because take your hands out of your pockets.
Yes, ma'am.
Is what they needed in order to start their business. You made the loan, they didn't pay, you want your money.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's find out certain things. When did you accept this money from your father?
It was the beginning of December 2008.
And tell me the circumstance surrounding your accepting this money from your father.
We had worked for a company, he had worked for a company, and I worked with the gentleman as a secretary, and the one company that he had started with doing carpet cleaning, they were leaving to Arkansas, and we really didn't want to have to leave and be relocated with our family. So I went to my father and asked him to give me money so that
No, that's not what you said to him. Let's go back a second. You went to your father and you said what?
that I need money to get a carpet cleaning van.
What did your father say to you?
That he would do it.
He would do what?
Give me the money.
No. Lind.
I don't believe that you went to him and said, give me money. That's not what you would do. None of my children would ever come to me, and I have enough to do it, but they wouldn't come to me and say, I want you to give me money to buy a car. None of my children would ever do that. They would come to me and say, Mom, I'm in need of some money. Could I borrow some money from you? Hoping that I might say to them, tell me what you need the money for, and if it's for a good reason, I'll give it to you. Does that sound right to you, Bird?
That's absolutely right.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So now let's you and I understand each other.
Yes.
That certain things are common sense, unless you're a psychotic or a miserable person. Now, you're neither psychotic nor a miserable person, are you?
No.
So you would never go to your father and say, I need to buy a truck. I want you to give me money. Right?
Correct.
So then why don't we start all over again like this never happened? You went to your father and said,
Can I borrow money for a carpet cleaning van?
Right. And what did he say to you?
That yes, he would get a loan and he would give me the money.
And what did you say to him?
Thank you.
And how did you make arrangements to pay him?
We never officially...
Don't look over there. Look over here. I'm not talking about officially with the Queen's stamp ring on anything. How was he supposed to repay the loan that he was taking out? He wasn't going into his savings. He was taking out a loan.
Yes.
How were you supposed to put your hand down? I'm not asking you a thing. He's not your father. How are you supposed to pay back this loan?
Yes, clearly in monthly payments, but I never took it into that consent that I was actually going to...
That's hardly English, what you just said to me.
Never thought it completely through, I guess, when I did it.
Well, then that's not my problem that you never thought it completely through. And Loverboy wasn't there. Is that right?
Correct. I went to my father's by myself.
That's right. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am. We agreed to $300 a month.
When did you agree to $300 a month?
I think I gave him the check on December 4th, sometime shortly after that.
Okay. And did they make any payments towards the loan?
They made $100 or $200, that's about it.
And when did they stop?
Oh, God.
When did she stop? Because right now, he has nothing to do with this loan. He's just standing there and looking miserable.
Probably shortly after January, February, I'm not sure. Because on February, then, she wrote me 3 different checks to cash it separate times. You want to see also the check that I took out, the $9,000?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She said that she wrote me 3 different checks to help make up for the payments in February there, you see. And I took it to the bank, and there was no funds in the bank account at all.
Truthfully, I did that so he would leave me alone. So I took out money from one account to another. I have 2 accounts, so I...
He was making threatening.
Yeah.
He was making threats to us daily.
I was not making
Coming to my
threats.
He did make threats on my telephone that he hoped that the kids were going to end up in an orphanage when he was going to come tow the truck away that was in my name.
I did say to her.
So just a second.
And
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you pay him his money?
I didn't know that.
Why didn't you pay him his money?
I didn't know there was agreement to pay it back.
You're full of baloney. You're full of baloney. You think that he gave it to you because he just thinks you're a nice guy? He doesn't have that kind of money, clearly. He had to take out a loan to get it. Why didn't you pay him back his money?
That's one reason I did give him the 100 because I was.
Why didn't you pay him back his money?
Well, I didn't have $9,000 to give back.
He
to him
wasn't
the same
asking
day.
you for $9,000. He was asking you for payments.
Sure. Well, he never asked me. I never talked to him. I don't talk to them. They talk to Rachel. But from what I know, I'm normally.
Then, listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you earning any money carpet cleaning with the van that he bought?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were making money, and you were feeding yourself?
So I could work. Yes, ma'am.
You were putting a roof over your head?
Yes, ma'am.
Forget her.
Sure.
Forget the children. This is his daughter. You are nothing. Then you have to pay him back. You have
And if
to
he had
pay
ever-
your father back.
If he had ever come to me strictly and said, you know, there's an agreement to pay, but we had never arranged the agreement together.
Then your girlfriend, and I'm not even saying why, your girlfriend lied to you. Now, is there any reason why you and the lovely Miss Gulahan have not married? Yeah, there are a couple of reasons.
Probably my fault.
There were a couple of reasons, okay? When you were without funds,
Sure.
was there any state money coming into your house? My question is a simple one. When you were without jobs, was there any state money coming into your house?
When we were first together, yes, ma'am.
When the children were born?
Yes, ma'am. I stopped that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Very temporarily.
Did you ever pay back the state?
Didn't
Did the state know you were living together?
Yes.
Oh, I doubt that. You owe your father this money, madam. He doesn't owe him anything because the contract was made with you.
Is there a contract?
Yes, there is a contract.
Where? In all due
Right
respect.
here.
Okay.
Right
okay.
here.
Okay.
In my mouth. There's an offer
right.
and an acceptance. And there was consideration paid. The consideration was he took out a loan. The agreement was your girlfriend, the mother of your children, would pay back the loan monthly. That was the contract. It was an oral contract. That's why we're here. If it was a written contract, it would be much easier, and I wouldn't have a television program that makes me highly successful. Do we understand each other, sir?
Yes,
Huh?
yes, ma'am.
Very good. Unfortunately for you, sir, the maximum that this court allows me to award you is the $5,000
Yes, ma'am, I
maximum
understand
limit
that.
of the court. You are owed a lot more than that. I hope that your daughter does the right thing and doesn't become a bum if she doesn't pay you back the rest of the money. That's exactly what she is. Do you understand?
Yes, I would
Do you?
just.
Good.
Most
Thank you
fathers
very
take
much.
you to
That's
college.
all.
Megan Coe claims ex-boyfriend Ryan Anderson owes for loans to buy a car and to pay his DUI fines.
Mr. Anderson, you have this petrified look on your face.
Oh,
sir.
I'm not petrified at all.
Let's see what we can do about that.
Okay.
Miss Coe was a girlfriend of yours?
Ex.
Yeah, I said, I want you to listen very carefully. Put on your listening ears,
Sorry.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, Your Honor.
I said Miss Coe was a girlfriend of yours, correct?
Yes.
And you knew her for a long time, but got into sort of a more committed relationship around 2003. Sometime, according to you, Miss Coe, in 2005, you loaned the defendant $2,000.
Correct.
Now you want that money back.
That's right.
Mr. Anderson says, never any discussion of paying you the money back? It was a gift?
Correct.
She gave you $2,000 when, Mr. Anderson?
It was approximately September of 2005.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes, we were.
What was the money for?
Well, it was some fines that I had occurred
What kind of fines?
through the court system.
What kind of fines?
They were for DUI conviction.
How much were the fines?
Approximately $900.
Did you pay any of the fines, sir?
I had paid some previously, and those were the remaining balance.
How much did you pay?
The total fines were about $2,800.
Is this the first DUI that you had had?
I had two within a short period of time.
That's why the fines were so high.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid
Your Honor?
$2,100, yes.
You paid $2,100.
The DUIs
Shh. I assume that you have something that's going to indicate that that's not the case. I'll look at it in a minute, Ms. Coe. So why did you need the $900 from Ms. Coe?
I currently had no license, and I had to pay the fees off to acquire my license again. So I needed the money to pay off the fees to get my license to drive.
Okay.
And with the hours I was working, it was tough on Megan to get me to work and back from where we were living.
So you must have said something to her. You have to have said something to her, because otherwise she'd have to be clairvoyant to know that
Well,
you needed
she was
900
fully aware.
Shh. She'd have to be clairvoyant to know that you needed $900, so that had to come a point when you said to her something like, I need $900 to pay for the rest of the fines.
Well, we were in a committed relationship at the time.
I don't care, we're committed relationship. I'm talking about words, spoken words.
I understand that. So there's going to be words exchanged knowing, well, how come you're not driving? Well, I'm not driving because I
Well,
still
that's what I
owe-
want to know. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
That's what I want to know, sir.
Yes. Your Honor.
I want to know what the conversation was, what you said,
Yes.
and what she said.
Megan knew of my circumstances.
Don't tell me what she knew. I want to know what
Okay, Megan
you
knew
said.
because of words being exchanged to each
I
other.
want the words.
I had told Megan that I had received 2 DUIs in the past, and I still owed an amount of $900 that I had to pay to acquire my license.
And she said to you?
And it came to a point where she told me when I was eligible for that she would help me pay for those fines.
And what did you say to her?
That I said that would be great. I could use that, then I could get a car, and I could get my license.
And she said, fine.
Yes.
And that's when she gave you the $900?
That's when the $900 came into play for the fees, yes.
And what was the other money she gave you?
Apparently, she paid $1,000 for a 1983 GMC Jimmy.
What do you mean apparently? What is that?
I've never seen a receipt or a bill of sale for it.
Well, who got the Jimmy?
I drive the Jimmy. The registration's in my name.
How did you get the car, sir?
Megan knew somebody who was selling the vehicle, and she told me that she had given the gentleman $1,000 for the 1983 Jimmy. Okay, I never saw a bill of sale.
And how did she give you the car?
He drove the car to my house. I looked at it and said, okay, not a mechanic or anything, didn't look under the hood, didn't do any of that. Looked at it, it was in, good condition for a 1983, had low miles. It's like, all right, $1,000, that's a good deal. The book value's $1,500. No, that's not a problem. So she gave me the keys, went down as soon as I could with the fees paid, and got my license and got the car registered under my name.
Okay, and that's the money?
Yes.
So it's $1,900?
Approximately $1,900, yes.
Go.
All right.
Let's start with the DUI convictions and the fees. You were dying to tell me something.
I have receipts for the payment of the fees, and it's over $900. I went and paid myself in cash, went to the courthouse for him because he had no transportation. Do you want to see them, the receipts?
No, I believe it. He says that you paid them.
Also, it was never a gift to him. It was fully intended to be a loan. I did it to help him out so he could get his license so I would not have to drive him around.
Just tell me the conversation, madam.
In September, he was eligible to get his license back. And so he was in the mix of trying to get his license back. He had these DUI fines that he needed to pay off. So I told him that I would loan him $900+ to pay off his DUI fines. And he would to pay me back in monthly payments and with his January of 2006 tax refund.
Okay, did he do that?
No.
So he didn't pay you back in January 2006. When did you and Mr. Anderson separate?
January of 2006.
Tell me how that came about.
Well, Mr. Anderson's continues to drink excessively and black out, verbally pretty much assault me and pretty much say rude things to me. It pretty much came to the point the last night I was there that I had to sleep in front of the door so he would not leave and drink and drive again.
Okay, so the fines you paid, and what about the car? How did that come about?
He needed a car. I told him that I would loan him $1,000, and he would pay me back the same way as the DUI fines.
How did you find the car?
My friend was selling his GMC Jimmy. It was $1,000. I asked him if I could buy it from him for Ryan, and he said yes.
And you gave him a check?
I gave him the check.
And he gave you the keys?
He gave me the keys and the title.
And the title. And then you drove it home, or did he drive it home?
Nathan drove it home. The
and
owner.
Where was Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Anderson was at the apartment.
Okay. Tell me what happened when you drove up.
I was like, here's the GMC Jimmy. What do you think of it? I think it's a great car for $1,000. I don't think you're going to be able to find something better for $1,000. And he agreed with me.
That's pretty much what he said?
Mm-hmm.
Was he working?
Yes, working full-time.
Just a second. September, October, November, December, he was working full-time. He now had a car.
Right.
How much of this $1,900 did he pay back to you?
Zero.
That's because it wasn't a loan. That's because it became a loan when you decided it was over. Because if it was a loan, he would have paid you $50 a month, $60 a month, $100 a month, $25 a week. He would have paid you back something between September and January.
He made excuses as to why he could not pay me back. He couldn't afford going to school.
Then you should have thrown him out. What you did with the car was you spent $1,000 on a car and then you came home and surprised him. That's what you did. You didn't take him to buy the car. You didn't show him the car before you purchased it. You purchased a car for $1,000 and you came home and said, I got your wheels so that you could drive yourself to and from your job so that I don't have to do it anymore. And if the romance hadn't been over, he wouldn't have paid you back anything.
We continued to have conversations after January of 2006. on the telephone. I have a witness hearing me speak to him. I have a letter stating all the information from the maker of the transactions I did, having conversations with him, making payments.
And B, he's going to testify as to what you said to him on the telephone?
As into the payment arrangements that we have discussed payments on the phone, and he makes excuses every time why he cannot make a payment to me. He was supposed to also pay me with tuition reimbursements from his work. He always made an excuse. He had other bills to pay, so forth and so forth. And that is why I took it to small claims.
A year and a half later, a year and a half after you laid out $1,900.
Well, I told him that he had the chance to pay me, and after a quarter of a year, then I would take him to small claims.
After the romance is over, madam, is not the time to say now you have 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. I mean, I'm sympathetic with you, but you were in love with the guy and you thought your relationship was going someplace and you wanted him to have the means to get to work.
So because I did him a favor, I shouldn't get paid back a loan that we agreed. We had a verbal agreement.
Listen, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not you, who are sharing a home and having an intimate relationship with somebody, has said to them, this is a loan. You will pay me back in January out of your income tax returns. This is a loan. I am giving you $1,000 towards a car, but you go and buy the car, you purchase the car, you come back, you show him the car, and give him the keys. That's not a loan for a car. So, Ms. Coe, what I'm telling you is, I have to make a judgment. I'm sympathetic with you. I'm sympathetic with you. You're out $1,900, and if he had any moral fiber, he would pay you back. But if you gave him this money in September, and from September to January, he was working full-time and made absolutely no attempt to pay you back a nickel, not $5, and you tolerated that, I have to assume it was not a loan. Period. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Jody Marone is suing her ex-boyfriend, Thomas Matson, for a loan to reinstate his driver's license. Jody says Thomas has 9 DUIs.
He used to be your boyfriend. It's your claim that he owes you some money. You paid off some fees for him, took out a loan to do it. He says it was very nice of you, but he told you that he couldn't pay you back, and it was a gift, right?
Right.
How old are you?
31.
What do you do for a living?
Work at a sawmill.
How long have you worked there?
A year and a half.
How much do you earn?
$13.50. Not very much.
Try to keep your voice up. I'm old.
Not very much.
$13.50 an hour?
Yes.
And what do you do for a living, Miss Marone?
I'm a registered nurse.
Who do you live with?
Me and my children.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
Aside from you, who supports your children?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
From your work?
Yes.
You have any children, Mr. Matson?
Yes.
How many?
1.
Who supports that child?
Me and her.
So you have a child together?
Yes.
How old is that child?
She'll be 2 August 17th.
He doesn't pay me anything.
You don't live together?
No.
Is there a court order of support?
Yes.
How much?
It's almost $600 a month. It's just started.
I haven't received anything.
Just a second. When did it start?
I just got served the papers a few weeks ago.
Prior to that, how much were you giving Miss Marone for your support of your child?
When we were split up?
Yes.
Nothing.
And how long were you split up?
It's been like 4.5, 5 months.
How do you expect your daughter to eat?
He says that I'll take care of it.
How did you expect her to eat if you weren't giving her any money?
I had enough money to live myself.
Who cares? If you don't have enough money to live yourself, you don't make another baby.
Exactly.
So you answered my question, and my question was, she supports her 3 children, and you pay no support, at least for the last 6 months.
I talked to an attorney, and the attorney told me not to give her nothing until it was court ordered.
So your attorney said to you, you don't have any responsibility towards this child until a court tells you you have responsibility. Is that right?
No,
just a second. According to you, the thrust of what your attorney said to you was, you don't have any responsibility to pay support for your child until a court tells you you have responsibility. Right?
There will be back support.
You've been working at the sawmill for a year.
Year and a half.
Who owns the sawmill?
Dave LePage.
Mr. LePage says to you, we're going to pay everybody once a month, and you work for your month. And then he says to you, you know what? I may be going into bankruptcy. I'm not paying you. Let a court tell me that I owe you money. And in case I don't go into bankruptcy, it would be wise for you to continue working. And maybe next month I'll pay you. Next month comes around, he says, you know what? I'm still not going to pay you. How are you supposed to take care of yourself?
I don't know.
Your daughter is 2. She shouldn't have to think about how she's going to take care of herself, sir. That's the job of her parents. Both parents. Now, what bills did she pay that you couldn't pay? Take a deep breath. Look at me. What bills did she pay that you couldn't pay?
She paid my fines and my reinstatement.
What fines?
DWI fines.
So you have an alcohol problem.
Yes.
And how many tickets have you gotten for DUI? And how much did she have to take out in order to pay off those fines to keep you behind out of jail?
I think it was around $4,000.
So this is what I have, Mr. Mattson. I have somebody who doesn't pay child support. I have somebody who has 3 children who works and supports her children. And I have somebody who's an alcoholic who can't cover his own fines, but who thrusts that responsibility onto the providing parent. What do you think I should do with that?
I didn't ask her to pay him.
You mean the figure just came from the DUI fairy? The information on how to get this accomplished came from some crystal ball, from some seance that she had?
She wanted me to have my driver's license so I wouldn't get in any further trouble.
You know what the problem is? You know what I'm going to tell you what the problem is. She appears to be a rather intelligent woman. You know, she has a credible profession, right?
Yes.
And she picked this loser. Not only did she pick this loser, she picked this loser and had a child with him, thereby continuing this gene pool that's getting us all into trouble in this country. You understand from gene pools, don't you? You're a nurse. Figure it out. Was he a drunk when you met him?
Not when I met him. He drank, but...
You know, but for the fact that they're his fines, they're his DUIs, it's part of his punishment, you almost deserve it. You know that.
Yeah.
The only problem is you have 2 other children, and you brought this loser into your household and into your family with 2 other children.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. Don't do it again. How much does he owe you?
$3104.76.
Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Maria Becca Figo is suing her ex-fiancé, Robert Michael Strickland, for credit card bills and the return of a Dr. Seuss sculpture.
Mr. Strickland, I'm going to go directly to you, sir.
Okay.
I put together from both your complaint and your answer what seems to be a relatively easy story to tell, but then I have to come to you for the answers.
Okay.
You and the plaintiff were together for a very long time as a couple, even engaged at some point, according to both the complaint and the answer. You lived together. That ended about a year ago, but you remained friends. As a matter of fact, according to both of you, when you came into town on business, you would very often stay at the plaintiff's apartment, whether she was there or not there, because you saved some money and you were friends. You kept in touch. When you were together as a couple, you amassed a large credit card bill. And when you separated, you decided that you would arrange to split those expenses somehow. And you agreed to pay to the plaintiff $400 a month towards the credit cards for a period of 1 year, from August 2004 until August of 2005. And that's what you did, just shy of the year, 3 months shy of the year. Every month you sent her $400, she paid off the credit card bills. Then one day, probably in June, was it in June, you stayed over at her house? April. Stayed at her house, and according to the plaintiff, you found some evidence that she was involved with somebody on a serious basis.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
You didn't know about that.
That's correct.
And that was the last time that you paid the $400.
Yes.
In addition, when you left her apartment, you took a sculpture that had been in her apartment for the 8 months that you were separated, because now you say it was your sculpture.
Well, I believed it was my sculpture the entire time.
So is that the story? That's the case.
Exactly.
You want your $1,600 back, and you want your sculpture back.
Actually, I lowered that amount. I've realized that he did give me one last payment in April, so he actually only owes me for 3 months, so $1,200 instead of $1,600.
Great. And you want your sculpture back?
Sculpture back, yes.
Now I want you to tell me why she shouldn't get her $1,200 and the sculpture back.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, I have the invoice from the gallery where I purchased the sculpture, and it has my name only. And in October of 2004, I made a lump sum payment of $6,200 towards her credit cards. I think this is more than fair. The reason I was paying her $400 a month is because I felt sorry for her. She told me she could not make her living expenses based on her salary and continue to make even the minimum payments on her credit card debt. And as in April, when I found the evidence, I realized that...
Well, she wasn't hiding anything from you, sir. You weren't a couple anymore.
Well, the fact is that I'm back together. There was never a clear breakup. In fact, after she had the sculpture, we went on a trip to Costa Rica together. We went on a trip to South America together.
How did she get the sculpture?
She took it and went to her apartment.
Explain how that happened. You had evidently acquired a lot of things while you were together as a couple.
Right.
You took some things.
Mm-hmm.
What did you take?
I kept some of the possessions in the house. She also took a dining table and some other pieces of art.
Is that by agreement?
Yes, but I never intended for her to have it permanently.
I don't think what was in your mind.
I don't think there was never a clear agreement.
When you said, well, you were living...
We wrote it down. We had a list of the major household items, and it had my name and his name, and we checked off which ones we wanted. And then when there were items, you know, like I took the kitchen items because I cook and he doesn't. So when we got to the items that we both wanted, such as the sculpture and the other pieces of artwork, we finally agreed...
What other pieces of artwork?
Well, we have 2 other Dr. Seuss pieces of artwork that
you have a picture of this piece of art?
The one in question, yes.
Yes. Can I see it, please?
The one on the left.
Okay. How many pieces of this Dr. Seuss art do you have?
We had 3 total when we were together. And he ended up with 2 of them. And I ended up with 1 of them.
And this was on the list that you prepared?
Yes.
When you no longer were living together, was that at the end of a lease, or did you just separate?
No, we just separated.
Were you living in an apartment?
Yes.
Who stayed in the apartment?
I did.
For how long? After you separated?
Well, see, there's never a clear separation.
Yes, there was a separation when when you turn over at night and you don't see somebody there, you know she's gone.
Well,
Mr. Strickland, you keep saying it, but, you know, I woke up in the morning and said,
before that,
we used to, we used to sit at the dining room table and have dinner together. She's not here anymore. It would give me some clue that you were no longer together. So let's answer my question, not dance around, because believe me,
Can I give an explanation for that?
No.
Okay.
Because... especially if there's a list. You take this, I'm taking this, you take this, I'm taking this, your name, his name. What's your first name?
Maria.
And yours?
Michael.
Maria, Michael, Michael, Maria, 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 Michael, Michael, Michael. And then she leaves. Now, when she left and she took the sculpture with her and the dining room table or the kitchen stuff or whatever she took with her, you didn't call the police and report it stolen, did you?
No, I did not.
Because you anticipated that you still might get together and be a couple.
Correct.
That didn't happen. That doesn't mean you can take back the sculpture, Michael. You have to get over it.
Okay.
Happens.
I don't even know how he anticipated that.
You have to return it to her.
Okay.
You have 5 days to return it to her. And you agreed to give her, for whatever reason, because you were together, because there were tremendous credit card bills, because young people very often do that, which is very stupid, but you were together as a couple for how many years?
6 or 7.
Well, that's a long time. And how much in credit card bills did you have?
20,000, maybe more.
Well, that's what happens. And how much were the credit card bills that you personally were left with?
I would guess 15 or 20,000. I don't know exactly. I have not gone through and accumulated them.
You have not?
No.
Well, I suggest you get a financial planner and do that. In any event, you agreed to pay her $400 a month. You still owe her $1,200 on that debt. And within 5 days, Michael, you have to give her back her Dr. Seuss. She wants it.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I no longer have the sculpture.
You get one.
Okay.
Get one. 5 days. You get it back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good.
Par les excuses, you messed up.
Linda Banks is suing her neighbor, Herbert Robertson, for accidentally shooting out her windows with a BB gun. Herbert claims he's a better shot than that.
Miss Banks, Mr. Robertson is your neighbor, and it is your claim that he shot out some windows in your home with a BB gun.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Robertson, while he acknowledges the fact that he was shooting his BB gun, said that A, it's impossible for the gun to have pierced the windows of your house because it would have to go through a bunch of trees, and B, it would be impossible anyway because he's a very good shot. And he was shooting at squirrels, and he knows that because he's such a good shot, he would not have missed and damaged your property. Those are your two defenses. Is that right, sir?
Pretty much.
Tell me where I'm wrong. I like to know where I'm wrong.
Well, I might miss on occasion.
Oh.
But, like I said, we're in front of the big tree, so...
Okay. Miss Banks, have you had any trouble with Mr. Robertson before?
Yes, I have.
With what?
About 5 years ago.
Stop playing with that, please. It's distracting me, and at my age, nothing should distract me when I'm trying to work. Yes.
Approximately 5 years ago, Your Honor, he installed a pool improperly in his backyard, and that pool ruptured, and the water came down my backyard because he lives here and I live here, and approximately 19,000 gallons of water came into my basement. And what I did was I asked him to come over to survey the damage. He did, and his comment was that it wasn't that bad. But because we're neighbors and I tried to handle it civilly, I settled with his insurance company for $1,200, and there was a lot more damage than that, let alone the time. And I asked him to just help me clean it up, and he refused to do that. This time, when I discovered the damage, I said I wasn't going to let it go.
Since the incident 5 years ago, I assume that the relationship between the two of you has been strained.
Yes.
What date were you shooting at squirrels, Mr. Robertson, when Miss Banks came over and told you had damaged her windows?
Oh, she never did.
Who did?
I did. This guy. I mean, I was out in the backyard one day, and he hollers at me and says, you shot my garage window. I said, well, I don't know if I did, but if I did, I'll replace it. He says, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to know about it. And so ever since then, we quit shooting the BB guns.
Well, when was this, sir, that you told him he shot out the window?
It was the third week of July. His son was out shooting and actually shot over top of my head.
How old is your son?
16.
Don't you know that you could hurt somebody with a BB gun?
If you hit somebody, it'd probably sting.
Well, if you hit him in the eye, it could blind him.
Probably could.
If you hit him in the ear, it could make him go deaf.
Probably could.
So why do you do it?
I didn't.
No, why do you let your son play with a BB gun?
Well, I imagine there's probably 40, 50 kids in that neighborhood got BB guns.
I don't give a rat's behind about 40 or 50 kids. I'm asking you, why do you let your son shoot a BB gun?
Because I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my yard. If he wants to shoot a pop can or something in the backyard, that's no problem. This guy's saying he got one shot over his head. I doubt it. How would you know?
Because you can hear it coming through the...
You can't hear a BB.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, it's like, when I say something...
Yes.
I mean, it's like we're talking about the swimming pool. 19,000 gallons of water didn't go in her basement. I did go and survey the damage. It didn't look that bad.
How much of it went into her basement?
My insurance company took it.
When I'm speaking, you see, you may be able... Is this your wife?
Yeah.
You may be able to interrupt her. Don't interrupt me.
No, I was speaking.
No. But when I start to speak, Mr. Robertson, you have to stop. That's the way we play here in my playpen.
That's fine.
Good. Can I see the damage to your house, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have police reports as well, if you would like to see those.
I would.
And then also I've included estimates.
Good. How many windows?
3 windows, and then the truck windshield.
Well, either you or your son have lousy aim, sir.
Would you mind asking this man if he did agree, that I told him I'd take care of the window, and he said, don't worry about it, I just wanted you to be aware of it? Because after that date, we never shot anymore.
When you first...
Shh, don't answer him.
It's like a rock damage to me. No BB did that.
Yes.
Judge Judy, I would like to add, originally, the first incident he did offer to pay. The second incident was August the 11th, the date of the police report.
And on the second incident, how many windows were shot out?
That's when we discovered the damage of the second additional, the bedroom window, and then the truck window.
Got it. Still have the BB gun, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah.
Still let your son use it?
Like I said, nobody shot it since he said I shot his garage window out.
Well, you don't know that, sir. You do work, don't you? You do
No,
work.
I don't.
You don't work?
No.
Why not?
I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Back.
You
I've
have a
had
bad
5 back
back.
surgeries.
Really? How can you shoot a BB gun with a bad back?
A BB gun?
Yeah, how can you pick up a BB gun?
Well, how much do you think it weighs?
Kind of hard to shoot. Well, incapacitating. Seems to be if you can do this, you can sit at a desk and answer a phone.
Well, I'm just saying, I offered to pay for it. He said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the shooting.
He doesn't
after
want
that.
you to, no, listen to me. He doesn't want you to worry about it. He wants you to pay for it. There's a difference.
I offered to pay for it.
Good.
Ask my wife.
Oh, I won't. She has to go home with you.
Oh,
that she has
well, you
my
done made your
sincere
mind up.
condolences.
And like I said, you know, I thought you were innocent till you're proven guilty.
That's what we just did.
No, you didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's all.
Don't
Thank you.
matter.
Kashmir Bigda says the fiancé of his child's mother, Justin Hellinger, punched him out at work. Justin is countersuing for child support costs and for false charges made to CPS.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bigda, how old are you, sir?
I'm 28 years old, Your Honor.
Is this your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been married?
We've been married for roughly 3 years, almost 4.
You have children
Yes,
with her?
ma'am. I have 2 by my wife, Your Honor.
Your complaint says, sir, that the defendant is the boyfriend of the mother of another of your children. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you married to your wife at the time that this child was conceived?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
How old is the child that you have with, what's your name?
Selena.
Selena.
She just turned 2, Your Honor.
And this is your complaint, Mr. Bigda. Your complaint is that the defendant assaulted you.
Yes, sir.
And in addition, you claim that you made a small loan to him to cover some insurance payment that he needed. Mr. Hellinger says that you precipitated this argument, and in addition, he is counterclaiming. He alleges that you called Child Protective Services on him on more than one occasion, and in addition, he says that he's been supporting your child, correct?
Yes.
How much child support do you pay, Mr. Bigda?
I paid $36 weekly, court ordered.
Do you pay it every week?
Yes, I do, ma'am. It's taken directly out of my paycheck, Your Honor.
And how much is your paycheck, sir?
My paycheck, it ranges anywhere from $300 to $600, depending on how many hours I work.
Then why do you only pay $36 a week in child support? Put your hand down.
Because that's what the court had ordered, because I have 2 other children and a wife. My wife does not work, so I have...
Why doesn't your wife work?
Because she stays home and takes care of our 2-year-old.
You have another 2-year-old? You are very busy, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why don't you work and earn $600 a week all the time, Mr. Bigda?
Because the paper mill doesn't always have overtime. Some weeks you might work 12-hour days. Some days you just work 8 hours. It varies if we have people that call in or...
Yes.
I worked at the same paper mill, and overtime's always welcome. I left that job because of him. Right now I'm currently climbing trees. So
For a living?
Yes, I cut trees down. I work for
you
tree
cut
service.
trees down. You said I climb trees. I
so
said I
when-
didn't know that you could make a living doing that.
So when he says that the overtime ain't there, it is always there at that mill. I work there. I also put in tons of hours.
Mr. Bigda, it's outrageous that you only pay $36 a week in child support, sir. I'm telling you that right now. Even if you pay it, she wants to tell me that you don't even pay it. But if you paid it, that's an outrageous figure for you to pay for child support. It's not your child's fault, sir, that you didn't know how to keep your whatever in your pants. That's outrageous. What?
Sorry. I only received $26 out of that 36. 10 of it goes to the Department of Social Services towards arrears.
Yes.
The rear support is actually medical bills for Mrs. Catterette for having the baby. It's not rear.
No. It's not medical bills for her, sir. It's the birthing expenses for your child. Because when you make a baby, it has to be born.
Yes, that's what
right? Put your hand down. I don't know why you still tolerate him. Yeah, I'd be visiting him, and bringing flowers. Now, I'm ready to hear, sir, your tale of woe.
On the beginning of January 2007, I had recommended Justin, because he had not had a job for a while, to the paper mill that I worked at, and they had hired him. And on January 18th, I had loaned the defendant $50 to get his car insured so he could get to and from work. 2 days later, I had also loaned him another $20 so he would have gas money. And at that current time, I was out on disability due to my hand. I had to have carpal tunnel surgery on hand. And during that time, things were going good. I had come back to work roughly the end of February. And at the end of February...
So you weren't paid for the entire month of February?
I was paying. I had support reduced, and it was I'm all caught up as we speak.
What'd you have it reduced to? How could they reduce it any lower?
Because it was reduced because I was only bringing home $230 a week due to disability. I have proof of what I had loaned him.
Get on to the... So far, I hear $70, sir.
All right.
$70 from your $26 a week that you pay in child support, not $36. $10 goes for arrears. You acknowledge that. So you pay $26 a week, which is less than $100 a month. You want me to translate that by day, sir? Let me translate that. $26 a week divided by 7 equals $3.71 a day. That's what you pay. Let's move on.
Also, when I had returned back to work on February 26th, Justin Hellinger had assaulted me several times.
Well, I want you to tell me what happened. What's the basis of your claim, sir? Let's hear it.
Pretty much what happened is I try to see my daughter whenever I can, and he does not want me to see my daughter, and he tries to control when I can and when I can't. And he told me if I call to have any contact, he'd kill me and bury me. On the night of January 13th, Mr. Hellinger had come down to my part of the plant where he should not have been and started having verbal words with me. He told me that he was going to beat me up, and I didn't want to have any time of problem, so I went to turn around, and when I turned around, he had closed his fist and hit me on the left side of my head, 2 centimeters from my temple, and I was taken to the hospital by the employers. I have hospital statements showing...
I'd like to see those, please. Okay. Now, Mr. Hellinger, I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened on the 13th, please.
The bathroom is downstairs in the mill, so I was going down to the bathroom. There's 2 flights of stairs. I went down one flight, he went down the other. We intercepted each other in the middle. It's about a 10, 15-foot hallway. I confronted him about what he was doing to me, why he was calling my house at midnight.
Just a second. When you say you confronted him, what did you say to him?
I said, Cashmere, why do you keep calling my house at midnight, harassing me and my family?
When did he call your house at midnight? Put your hand down!
It was probably the beginning of January when all this...
How many times did he call your house at midnight?
Oh, several.
Who did he speak to?
Her or me when I was there.
What did he say to you when he called at midnight?
Asked how I was doing and if Justin was being good, if I was doing all right and everything was all right between us. Pretty much wanted to know about my relationship with Justin.
Did you ever tell him not to call your house at midnight?
Justin has several times.
Why did you call their house at midnight?
I personally didn't. My wife did. My wife and Selena were good friends, and Selena had asked my wife to call so they could just talk about our child and other things. They were friends, and Mr. Hellinger does not like her wife. So she would ask my wife to call late at night when Justin went to work.
I'm asking you, sir.
I have personally never called his house after 10 o'clock. My wife had always done the calling for me because he would not allow me to call.
For you?
He would not allow me to call.
When your wife called, did you ever get on the phone?
There's been a few times that...
When your wife... Just the answer is either yes or no. When your wife placed the call, did you ever get on the phone?
Yes.
That's what he's complaining about. Do you get it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you confronted him about the calls that were coming to your house being made by his wife, but then the phone being turned over to the plaintiff.
Yes.
And what happened next?
He got a little irate, got loud with me.
No. Tell me what he said.
He can do anything he wants. His kid. And if he wants to be with Selena, he can be with her anytime he wants because he can just take her out to the bar and do what he wants to her. And
put your hand down.
It made me grumpy.
Made you grumpy?
Yes, very grumpy.
Well, probably mildly
He
made you
slandered
grumpy.
me. He slandered me through the whole mill, told the mill all my business, told the mill, a lot of the people I worked with, that I was beating her and the kid. I confronted him about that too. He started to come at me, and at that time I just pushed through with him. And I don't know if I hit him in the head or not, but I did.
Well, you did hit him in the head, sir.
I had an open hand. I never closed my hand when I hit him because he's handicapped. I would not hit a handicapped person.
Okay, now I'll hear you.
Yes, Your Honor. I had made a report to the police. He was arrested. I have the arrest,
I'd like
and
to
there
see it.
was.
Now you can stand up.
And I have told people about Justin at the mill, and the reason why I did that is because I fear for my daughter's welfare. That's why I keep persisting. He's a registered 2 sex offender, and it is on the website for everybody to see. I fear for my little girl's life, and so
Yes.
I've been with this little girl for 2 years. My officer said it's fine. I have 2 children of my own. I also get every other weekend. Being around his daughter is no problem to me. I'm not dangerous to anybody. What I done in my past was my business. The fact, yes, it is. I am registered, but it don't affect my life at all. I have a good job. I work around several 100,000 people a day. I go to people's homes.
Did your prior conviction involve children?
No, it did not. It involved an underage girl, which I did not know her name, or her age, I should say.
How old are you now?
I am
Put
24.
your hand down!
I am 24.
24. And when was this conviction?
2 years ago?
2 years ago when you were 22.
Yes.
And how old was the girl?
16.
Got it. Fine. Not fine legally, but that's a totally different scenario than pedophilia. That's just dumb.
Understood.
And you have too many children, sir, at age 24. If you
I
have
understand.
3 children.
Yes.
You too. I don't care how many trees you climb, and I don't care how much pulp you make. Now, you want to say something to me?
The phone calls that were made to Selena were me returning calls and her returning my calls. He did not take the phone every time, only once in a great while.
Listen, he took the phone more than once. Madam, I don't even have to be there to know that he took the phone
yes,
more
he
than
did.
once. Right. Anything else you want to say?
Just that the support issue, we give them money on the side to above what the court orders. We also buy Davina's clothes, Davina's diapers, her wipes, her shoes. And when we do send them home...
Show me receipts.
Right here, where I spend at Walmart off of my bank card.
Show me.
There's a few. There's Walmart there, where we've spent $502 to buy clothes, diapers, wipes, food.
What about for whose children?
For his daughter.
Not for your children?
No, not at that point, no. I buy her
Baloney.
things separately.
Baloney. I don't believe a word of what you... Sit down. You think that I believe that you went and spent $500 on his daughter and none of that...
No, some of it was on his daughter. Not all.
Now, that's better.
I'm sorry,
Some
that was
of it
my mistake.
You made a mistake.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
What?
Also, I fear for my child because last summer, roughly June or July, the defendant was also arrested because his girlfriend Selena had left him, and he rolled his car trying to kill himself on purpose. And he had a suicide message left on my machine. I didn't bring that with me today.
Yes.
The fact that I tried to kill myself has nothing to do with
Yes,
his
it does.
child. I was not with him.
Yes,
I got help.
Listen to me. That's a legitimate concern.
I understand it is.
Okay? That's a legitimate concern. If you have suicidal thoughts, that's one thing. If you act out those suicidal thoughts and you are around the child, that's a legitimate concern that a parent might have. You get it?
Yep.
Now, I assume that that formed the basis of at least one of the calls to Child Protective Services.
No, it did not.
Did it?
Yes, it did.
How many times did you call Child Protective Services?
3 times.
Tell me about the 3 times.
The one time was when he rolled his car, and Selena, the mother of my child, was worried, so we got together and had called. The second time was when he called my house going irate, and he threatened to kill me and bury me and told me I could not see my child, so I was very concerned about the welfare of my daughter. And the third time was due to him stalking and calling me names and stuff. He had even stooped low. He had convinced his girlfriend to go to the police and report that I had raped her. That's how our daughter was conceived. And the police had come to my house, and she was filed for making a false report and is under community service for trying to have me arrested.
Yes. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. That's not good. That's not good.
I was highly intoxicated the night that me and Kashmir, conceived my daughter.
So?
I don't remember any of it, and it was not a coerced thing. I went to the police department on my own.
How much after your daughter was born?
6 months, maybe.
So you had 9 months and 6 months? You had 15 months to think about it?
I was not.
Okay. Mr. Hellinger, he was clearly assaulted, and you clearly lost your temper. So you have to be responsible for his medical bills.
Your Honor.
What?
I have unfounded papers from Social Services January 30th that he called on me where I was unfounded.
Yeah, that's okay. He has legitimate concerns about you. Are you getting any help for yourself?
Yes, I am.
Good. You seeing somebody regularly?
Yes, I do.
Put your hand down. Listen, if you think that I find you a sympathetic character, I do not. You were disloyal to your wife. You created a situation that she's going to have to live with and suffer with her whole life if she decides to stay with you. She has 2 children with you. I guarantee you the day that you told her that you had another child the same age as your youngest child was not the happiest day of her life. So if you think that I believe that you're a sympathetic character, I believe that you are an unsympathetic character, sir. As far as the money that you claim you gave him, that hardly makes up for the amount of money he contributes to support your child. So he's going to pay your medical bills, which are roughly $500. Unfortunately, Mr. Hellinger, you want to be compensated for supporting his child. That's your prerogative. If you choose to do that, you do that gratuitously.
That ain't a big problem to me, the harassment.
Fine. And as far as calling, some of your behavior, sir, is questionable. And I suggest to you, I would continue with the help that you're getting because you probably need it. What?
I also have proof that I lost wages.
I don't care if you lost wages.
When he...
Make up for it for the $26 a week that you send to support your child, or $3.71 a day. I'm telling you, sir, you are an unsympathetic person to me. I think that you would like to have control over this situation that you created. Were you drunk the night that she got pregnant?
No, I was not.
Was she?
Yes.
You know how unsympathetic you are? The scale of sympathy for me just went to a -10. So she was drunk. You weren't. You clearly then took advantage of somebody. That a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's going to cover your medical bills. Period. It's your $500. What a situation you created, sir. You created this whole situation. I know, because she was drunk. How old are you?
23.
And you?
28.
Goodbye, sir. You get your medical bills. Try to live with each other in peace.
Basil Aziz is suing comedy club owner Jay Robertson for the cash prize from a Player of the Year contest. Jay says Basil was the only contestant to show up.
Mr. Aziz, according to your complaint, Mr. Robertson is the owner of a club that you have been to in the past, and you saw some sort of an advertisement that indicated that on a particular day he was going to have a contest. You claimed that you went to the contest, that you won the contest, and that Mr. Robertson didn't pay I think it was $1,000. Is that right? That he indicated in the flyer was going to be the prize. Mr. Robertson's defense is that not enough people showed up, so that the contest never took place.
Correct.
Okay. Can I see the flyer that notified the public about this contest? Your club is in Virginia, sir?
Yes.
What kind of club is it?
It's a comedy club.
And you had these prepared?
Yes, I did.
Where did you send them?
They was on all sides of town, all over.
Okay. It says $1,000 to be awarded to the Player of the Year. Now, according to your complaint, Mr. Aziz, there was an entrance fee.
I paid that.
I don't see it where it said there was an entrance fee here. What was the entrance fee?
$50 or $100.
Well, who made the decision whether it was 50 or 100?
I did. Originally, how it was all going to be set up, it's going to be $150.
How come you didn't put that down here, sir?
Because I put on, the reason why I put it on there so more people can call. That's why I put on there for more info call.
Okay. And when people called, what did you tell them?
That's when I was telling them that it was $150. With the $150, that would take care of you, you know, far as for his drinks and everything, plus entering into the contest.
Okay. All right, Mr. Aziz. You got to the club on June 4th?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you pay when you got there?
$50.
Who did you give the money to?
The lady at the door.
What was the name of that lady?
That was the ticket lady. Her name was Lisa. And how it was set up, Lisa was to inform anyone who wanted to do the contest. That particular time, we has changed everything from the 150 to where it's that if you want to do the whole contest, it would be $100.
You can't do, Mr. Robertson.
He changing too much.
Let me explain something to you. You can't do that, sir. What you're telling me is depending upon your mood, how you felt, or whatever. Sometimes you told people that it was 150. Then it was something else because you changed all the rules.
Well, all the rules...
Mr. Robertson, you can't do that, sir.
All the rules stayed the same. And how the whole contest was supposed to be set up was, I had 5 women. That was going to be a panel. You had to go up on the stage. You had to explain to them why you should be the player of the year. They was going to tally up their votes. That never happened.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mr. Robertson. How come it never happened?
Because the only person that really came, because after, when I got back to the club...
The only person that came was...
Right here.
Do you know what that makes him? You know what that makes him? Player of the year.
Thank you. Go ahead, tell me. You want to tell me? He never told me.
Mr. Robertson, when you run a contest and you have somebody that enters, like he did, and paid his money, and you didn't get enough people so that it could be the kind of event you wanted, but there were a lot of people in your club that night, right? How many people were in the club?
I had...
How many people were in the club?
I had a lot of ladies at that particular time.
Right.
And then later on, that's when...
You had a lot of ladies. Would you say you had 200 people?
Something like that.
Line was around the corner,
Hey. You had 200 people, and was that a usual Saturday night, sir?
Something like that.
Did you have more ladies that Saturday night than you usually have?
Yeah, at that particular time.
You think that's because you advertised the Players Ball?
Well, that was the catch, to get the ladies to
Right. Come. So you got what your advertising paid for, Mr. Robertson. Now you have to pay up. The winner. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all. Thank
Parties
you.
are excused and they step out. Ashley Beischer claims the father of her child, Joshua Schmidt, owes for a $5,000 loan to buy a motorcycle. Joshua is countersuing, claiming Amy slashed his tires twice.
This used to be your boyfriend. When you were having a lapse in judgment while he was your boyfriend, you co-signed on a credit card for him to buy a dirt bike because he couldn't get it on his own.
Correct.
And the agreement was that he was to make the payments faithfully on that credit card.
That's correct.
He did make payments for a period of time on the credit card, and you separated. But he agreed to continue to make the payments on his bike, which he was using and which he took with him. Correct?
Correct.
Then there came a time that you and your fiancé, this would be fiancé, went to purchase a car. And you found out that your credit was awful. When you checked to ascertain why, according to your complaint, you found out that Mr. Schmidt had not been faithfully making on time the credit card payments on his bike. So what you want now is you want him to pay off that credit card so that hopefully you can get your credit restored.
That's correct.
Mr. Schmidt says that he was paying off the credit card until you slashed his tires.
That's ridiculous.
Shh. So that the fault is really yours for slashing his tires, causing him to lose his job. Have we joined the issue, Mr. Schmidt? Hello? You say in your answer it's really her fault.
Yes, I believe it is.
Perfect. I would like to see the date of the credit card loan and the history of payments.
I have that right here. This only goes back a year. They wouldn't.
Fine.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Schmidt, on what day, sir, do you claim your tires were slashed?
On May of 2006, I had 2 tires on my vehicle that were slashed. And then October of 2006, I had another tire slash on my car.
Just a second. After which incident, sir, did you lose your job?
The second.
So it's really the October of 2006 incident that you claim caused you to lose your job.
Yes.
And fall behind in your payments.
Yes.
So it would be a fair statement, sir, that it wasn't until October of 2006 that you started making either late payments or skipping payments or anything else. Up until that time, they were okay.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Your Honor, can I point something out?
Shh. Maybe, if I need some help. Well, sir, in September of 2006, which was before your tire was slashed, you had a late fee of $39.
Okay.
That's before, right?
Yep.
And in August, which was before your slashed tires, you had a late fee of $39.
That would be after the first.
You just told me, sir, that you didn't lose your job until after the October incident.
Yes, but missing days of work.
No. Baloney. The issue was that after the October incident, you lost your job because of the tire slashing, causing you to fall behind in your payments. And you said to me prior to that time you were on time with your payments. So we now have August and September where you were late. Are you following me, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, I am.
Who is this?
This is my witness, Jason.
Maybe. Jason. Now we have July. Late, Mr. Schmidt. And how much, sir, were you supposed to pay every month?
It's about $70.
So sometimes you didn't pay at all. And then you sort of doubled up the next month, right?
Yes.
You can't do that. You know you can't do that. Look at what we have here. A June late assessment. And you didn't make a payment. Whole month of June.
Is it possible, though, that me without a vehicle, how is it possible for me to get to work, to make money, to make payments on this?
What are you talking about? Who cares about whether you have a vehicle?
How do you get to work?
I don't care how you get to work. Walk. Crawl. Get your witness to pick you up. Now, let's go back to before the first incident, Mr. Schmidt, that you allege she slashed your tires, which you have to prove to me. Anyway, let's go back to April. Now, even you will know, Mr. Schmidt, that April comes before May,
Yes.
right? How do you account for the late charge in April, Mr. Schmidt?
I don't.
Right. So the cock and bull story that you gave me is just that. You've been making late payments on this loan forever, because we also have one for March. So what do I care how you get to work? How did Abe Lincoln get to school? I'm waiting for an answer.
Walk.
That's what he did. He walked. And you remember from grammar school how many miles he walked to school every day?
No, I don't.
I think it was 5 miles each way, wasn't it, Bert? I think something like that. 5 miles each way. Do you understand, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
When somebody else does a nice thing to you, what you're supposed to do is not be a pig. If you want to, you get the loan totally out of her name, and then if you want to screw up your credit, you do it. But you don't screw up her credit. Now, how much is left on the loan?
The grand total is about $6,700.
Well, the maximum I can award you is $5,000. You understand that, and the check will be directly to the credit card company which holds the loan.
Yeah.
You're still responsible, as is he, for the remainder of it,
Right.
and he's responsible to pay it.
Right.
Who do you work for?
I actually just got a new employment job. It's DeLuca and Tobin.
Well, you would have no objection if they deducted the remainder of the balance, anything over $5,000 from your check, would you? Listen to what I just said. You owe the money. You have the dirt bike, don't you?
Yes.
The maximum I can give her is $5,000. That will be made directly to the credit card company. You still owe them about $1,600. Are you prepared to sign an authorization to allow them to take the remainder of the money at periodic payments out of your check?
Yes.
Perfect. We will prepare that order and send it over to the drilling company and any other company that you might work for subsequently. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, let's get to the slashed tires. Did you slash his tires in May?
Absolutely.
You don't look like a tire slasher.
No.
You didn't see her slash your tires, did you?
No, I didn't.
Did you?
I did not see her, no.
Step up. Your name?
Jason
Jason what?
Moyer,
How do you know her?
through him.
When was the last time you had any contact with her?
While.
A while is not a month,
Well,
a
I
year.
don't talk to her, but I've seen her around town.
When was the last time you had contact with her?
Last fall, or around there.
Tell me about that contact.
Well,
Look
I
at
was,
me.
I was at the bar and I had walked by and
Bar, what bar?
Krieger's possibly.
What do you mean Krieger's possibly?
Well, it was either that bar or another one over there.
What time?
Probably 8 or 9 at night.
What date?
I'm not exactly sure.
What month?
October or November.
Mr. Schmidt, you sure you want me to do this to your friend? You sure you want me to do this to your friend?
Yes.
Be my pleasure, sir. You're walking by the bar that you don't know on a date that you don't remember in a year that perhaps you remember, and tell me what you believe you have that is germane to this case.
Well, I had heard her and her friends laughing about how his tires had been popped.
Yes?
Yeah, so I assumed she had something to do with it.
Oh, well, then you assume. Good. Do you have anything else that's germane to this case?
I did pick him up for work, too, a couple times.
I don't care about that. Sit down. You have anything else on the tire slashing, sir?
I just have a copy of, actually, no, I do not have
Good.
this on
Thank
me.
you very much. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe $5,000, and we will prepare an order for the remainder of the $1,600 to be deducted automatically from your check. Forward that to your employer with my love and hugs and kisses. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
23-year-old Ileana Torres is suing her ex-fiancé, 25-year-old Benny DeJesus, for a loan to pay his child support. Ileana says Benny was in danger of going to jail for the second time.
How old are you, Miss Torres?
23.
And you, sir?
25.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a professional esthetician.
What about you, Mr. DeJesus? What do you do?
Electrician.
How many children do you have, Miss Torres?
Just one.
How old?
He's 5.
Does he live with you?
Yes, he does.
Who supports him?
I do.
How many children do you have, Mr. DeJesus?
One, Your Honor.
Where does that child live?
Lives with his mother right now.
And who supports your child?
Well, I pay child support every month right now, and she has physical custody of him.
Do you pay child support for Miss Torres' child?
No, ma'am.
Because it's not your child.
Yes, ma'am.
It would be stupid for you to pay child support for Miss Torres' child because the child doesn't belong to you.
Yes.
Child has a mother and a father,
Yeah.
and the mother and father should pay child support.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is what your lawsuit is about, Miss Torres. You and Mr. DeJesus had the unfortunate experience of being engaged to each other for a period of time. And while you were so involved, Mr. DeJesus fell behind in his child support, among other things. But this is what your lawsuit is about. And it is your claim that you made a loan to him so that he wouldn't go to jail to pay his child support.
Yes.
Now, Mr. DeJesus says she paid the child support. You acknowledge.
Yes, I did. Yeah, she paid it for me.
But it was a gift. Now do you understand my preliminary questions?
Oh, yes. Clear as a bell.
So I asked you a couple of seconds ago, Mr. DeJesus, you wouldn't pay child support for her child, right?
Yeah.
Because the child's not yours.
Nope.
Child has a mother and a father.
Yep.
Parents are supposed to pay for their own children,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And if you don't pay child support for your child, you're a bum.
Yeah, basically.
Perfect. How much did you give him to pay the child support?
$2,400.
And how much time was he facing in jail if he didn't pay the child support?
2 years.
Ah.
It would have been his second time going to jail for not paying his child support.
That's a bum times 2. Now, Miss Torres, I mean, he's easy to take care of. You know, I could take care of 10 of him with this pinky. 10 of him. My question to you is, you don't look like a marginal person. You look somebody in the eye when you speak to them. You have a child that you support, lives with you. What are you doing with him? I mean, are things so desperate out there that you got to pick a bum who's got one child and has fallen behind twice in child support to the extent that the second time they were going to put him in jail for 2 years? You're going to get your $2,400 because that's what he owes you. Because he doesn't want to pay for your child and you shouldn't have to pay for his. Right, Mr. DeJesus?
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't $2,400. She only gave me $1,000. The rest of it I raised myself.
Show me the $2,400, Miss Torres.
She knows that it was $1,000 that she gave me.
This is the check.
And the rest of it was
This
raised
is the check
up
that
and
I
all
had
put
signed.
together.
This is where it came out of my son's bank account.
Because the money was deposited in there so that we could write a check out for it because I can't get cash.
And I got my money in there.
She knows that the reason the money was deposited was so that I could write a check out because I had to have record of the money that I'm paying.
No,
for
and
my
I
child
have
support.
a piece of paper.
Well, no time around the withdrawal of this $2,400, sir, did anybody put in $1,500?
It was sporadically put in. It was $200 here. As I kept raising the money, I would put the money into the account because the court date was coming. When the court
You
date
should have
came,
kept better
we
records.
deposited.
What kind of an excuse did you give to the mother of your child every time you didn't send money?
I mean,
Checks in the mail.
We both spoke. We speak every time we see each other. She knows if I'm late and when she's going to get her money.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. DeJesus. Yesterday, did you eat dinner?
Yeah.
And you have a cell phone?
No.
You have a regular phone?
No, actually, no. Thanks to Miss Torres here, I don't have nowhere to live actually right now.
I was paying for everything for you.
She took my car.
Miss Torres,
threw my clothes away.
Does he have a problem that's eating up the money that he's earning from being an electrician?
From what I'm concerned, I don't know.
You don't know.
When I met him, he did have problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
All I'm doing is telling you, I know. And you have a responsibility because you have a 5-year-old child. You're only supposed to bring the right kind of people into their lives. You got it?
Yes.
Judge for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,400. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nina Taylor is suing 25-year-old Amanda White for taking back a 1998 Ford Contour she donated to her. Amanda claims Nina misappropriated the donation.
Miss White, according to what I read, you gave Crystal a car.
Yes.
So you gave it to her.
Yes, ma'am.
As a gift.
Yes, ma'am.
When you gave Crystal the car, her mother invested money to have the car fixed. Then, according to Miss Taylor, you took the car back.
Yes, ma'am.
And she wants the money that she invested in the car because you took the car back. So now I have to figure this out. Which one of you two ladies is Crystal?
Me.
Crystal, stand up next to your mom. When did you give Crystal the
late July.
What kind of car was it?
A Ford Contour.
What year?
98.
How many miles did it have on it?
Approximately 200,000.
Okay, so it didn't have much value to it.
No.
And why did you give her the car?
The whole purpose, I paid the car off, and I said that when I get a new one, my whole point of not trading the car in was to give it away to somebody who was in need when I
Fine,
found
so you
that
gave it to
person.
Crystal?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
We worked together.
Why did you take it back?
We were waiting for a title to the car because I had a lien. I had trouble getting the title because of the lien. Miss Taylor contacted me right before I got the title, and she told me that she was suing me. She did not want the title at that point. She wanted the money that she says that she put into it. So I told her that I wanted receipts and I wanted to verify with my mechanic.
You have the car?
Yes.
You just give it back to Crystal.
That's not true.
Just a second. Listen to me. Perhaps Miss White didn't understand, so I have to explain the law to you. When you give a gift, you cannot give a gift with tentacles. You don't have the right to say, well, I'm giving it to you because I want to give it to somebody who's needy. But then if you do something with it that I don't like, I'm going to take it back.
Well, it's the whole idea that I was being sued. If I'm being sued for $2,000, prove it. She didn't want it.
Very
She
good.
didn't want the car. She didn't want the title. I told her I have the title.
Oh, fine. Well, just give her the. Just listen to me. Just give her the title.
I would at the door. At her
Just
door.
a second.
I
Listen
went
to
to
me.
her door and told her I
Perfect.
had it.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it
Just
is.
a second. Listen to me very carefully. You're not entitled to any money. You're entitled to the car. Period. End of discussion. Do you understand? My question is now, do you want, Miss Taylor, this is your lawsuit, do you want the car?
No.
Then your case is dismissed.
Why is that, Judge?
Because you are not entitled to the money. You fixed up the car. You're entitled to the car that she gave you. It was a gift. It was an unconditional gift. She gave it out of her heart because she wanted to give it to somebody who needed a car. You took it upon yourself to fix the car. You fixed it. You invested money in it.
But the car wasn't free. The title wasn't free. She just
It
got
is now free.
She just got it free and clear. She didn't have it in August.
Now she has the title free and clear. Do you want the car or nothing? Do you want the car or nothing?
The car, I mean, I put money into the car. I mean...
Do you want the car or nothing?
Car.
Good. Take out the title. You'll take care of signing it over to Miss Taylor. Fine?
That's fine.
Good. Bird, have him sign over the title, please.
Okie dokie.
Perfect. Is the car at your home, Miss White?
Yes.
Okay. When do you want Miss Taylor to pick it up, or Crystal?
Anytime.
Fine. You're a doll, Miss White. You're a nice person. It was a nice gesture.
Thank you.
This case stands for the proposition that no good deed goes unpunished. That's all. Thank you.
We've heard that
That's
all week.
Angela Ricker claims her husband's ex-wife, Sally Ricker, falsely accused her of vandalizing her car. Sally is countersuing for car damage and lost wages.
Mrs. Ricker, this lady is your husband's. I assume this is your husband?
Yes.
your husband's former wife.
Yes.
And it is your claim that she has been harassing you, that
Yes.
she's filed false charges against you,
Absolutely.
seeking a temporary restraining order, and you are seeking damages.
Absolutely.
The former Mrs. Ricker says that everything that she said in her application for a restraining order is true. She is counterclaiming for harassment and for vandalism that she alleges you did to her car. So, how long were you married to Mr. Ricker?
12 years.
You have children?
We have 3 children.
How old are they?
14, 12, and 7.
When were you divorced?
Our paperwork went through in 2005, but I left in 2002.
And when did you marry?
2 years ago, March 29th.
Do you have children?
No, we do not.
On what date was this restraining order filed?
I believe it was the 20th
of
March. The alleged incident was on the 17th, which would have been St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, I'm going to start with you. Tell me your first name.
Sally.
So that we can differentiate between the Mrs. Rickers. You're Sally. Tell me what happened on March 17th.
On March 17th, I was at an establishment near where I work. My car was parked.
What
in the parking lot.
establishment were you near where you worked?
I was at a nail salon called Tammy's Salon.
Okay.
And I'm looking out the window. I happen to look out, and I see both Tyler and Angela drive up, and I'm
What
shocked. It was about 2:30. I saw Tyler get out of the car, and then I saw Angela get out of the passenger side door, and together they hurriedly sort of walked into my place of employment.
What is the name of your place of employment?
I work at Trader Joe's. I happened to be off this day.
So you were off on March 17th?
I was.
How far is your place of employment from where you live?
4 miles across town.
Did you have an appointment for your nails?
No.
What was the name of the person who did your nails?
You know, I'm sorry, I don't know. She's an Asian woman, and I don't know her name.
Does she usually do your nails?
No, I walk in.
So you don't go to any particular person?
Not at that place, no.
Is there any reason why you went to that place on that day, despite the fact that you weren't working that day?
I had some time to myself. As I'm sole parenting my 3 children, I don't get a lot of time away.
Yeah, but this place is cross town. Why would you go cross town unless you have a particular nail lady who does your nails and
Well,
had an
it's
appointment rather
inexpensive.
than walking into some place that's closer and not cross town?
Well, it's inexpensive. I had a few hours to go do my nails and get some groceries.
Where were you getting your groceries?
At Trader Joe's.
Did you actually go into Trader Joe's?
No, I decided not to go in.
Go ahead, Sally.
So?
Go ahead. I'm listening. So they went into Trader Joe's, and you were having your nails done by a person whose name you don't know, and you just happened to be looking out the window. Let me hear the rest.
Yes, so they continued to walk in, and they asked for me while they were in the store. And
How do you know
this
that?
Because I had a conversation with my son. I called my son after I saw them.
Just a second. You called your son where?
I called my son from my cell phone.
And where was he?
He was at his grandmother's house. And I asked them if he had heard from his dad that day, because we haven't heard or seen from Tyler in 9 months. And so I called my son to see if he had heard from his dad this day, to find out why he would be in town. And he said, yes, he was there with Angela, and they were looking for you at the store.
What's your son's name?
My son's name is Aaron.
How old is he?
He's 14.
Stand up, sir. Did you call your son that day, Mr. Richter?
I did.
Where did you reach him?
I
On his
reached
cell
him
phone?
Yes, on his cell phone. He was at my parents' house.
At your parents' house?
Yes.
And did you ask him where his mother was?
I asked if his mother was at work.
Why?
Because I had part of his birthday present to give to him.
Which part?
A credit card that had come in the mail after his birthday.
Did you see him that day?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because he was at my parents' house.
Are you not allowed to be there?
It's not a comfortable place for me to be, but I'm allowed to be there.
Well, if you wanted to give him a credit card, why did you ask where his mother was?
I was going to give it to her if she was there.
So did you end up giving him his birthday present?
I did not.
Why not?
I was told she was not there.
Did you go into Trader Vic's?
Trader Joe's?
Trader
yes.
Joe's?
Yes, I did go into Trader
Vic's,
Joe's.
Trader Joe's, Trader. What?
Had a cup of coffee, and my wife and I did a little bit of shopping.
On the 17th of March, how long had it been since you'd seen your son?
I had seen him on his birthday, which was 1 month prior to that.
Where did you see him?
I saw him in Pleasanton at his mother's house.
Spent some time with him?
Yeah.
Why did you say he hadn't seen the children for 9 months?
Prior to that, Tyler had left Angela.
Listen to me. You told me that he hadn't seen the children for 9 months. He
Right.
said he saw his son in February, a month before, which is true.
He did not come to our house.
I didn't care whether he came to your house or not. I don't care whether he saw the children at McDonald's. Did he see his son in February?
He did not see his son on his birthday.
I asked you a question. Did he see his son in February?
He did not see his son on his birthday.
Did he see his son in February of 2007?
He did not see his son on February 15th.
I didn't ask you about February 15th. I said, did he see his son in February?
No, he did not see his son in February.
I don't believe you.
He saw his son on March 28th when he left his wife Angela and came into town for a few days.
Are you on medication?
No, I am not.
There is no question in my mind that he saw his son in February, a month before the March incident. So when I asked you the question 4 times, you gave me an evasive answer. 4 times. Now I'm asking you one more time. It's very easy for me to find out. All I have to do is call Aaron. Did he see Aaron in February, anywhere, at any time during the month of February of 2007?
I'm telling you that I don't. He did not see his son in February. I would have known that because we were together. If he saw his son, it could have been at school.
Where did you see him in February?
I saw him the weekend before his birthday. I had a hotel room in Pleasanton at Extended Stay Hotels. His mother dropped them off there, all 3 of my children. Yes, they stayed with me for the entire weekend, including Monday, which was a holiday. I saw them later at her house in February. And I was there on his birthday.
In February 2007.
Yes.
Let's go, Sally.
That is not true.
That
is not true.
Just a second. You want me to call Aaron? Very simple to find out. He has a cell phone?
Yes, he does.
You want to change your mind before I call him on his cell phone? Do you want to change your mind before I call him on his cell phone? I hate to get him involved in this, but I'm prepared to do it because it's very important to me.
It's important to me to be able to speak as well. So
I asked you a question. Did he see his children in February of 2007? And I'm going to be able to find that out either through you or through Aaron, who I will reach on his cell phone.
On February 27th. Yes, in February, Tyler saw Aaron.
Fine. Okay, now you're going to tell me that you saw Angela vandalize your car.
Yes, I did.
Is that you're going to continue? Let's go.
So on the way back out to the car, I was watching Angela as she had circled my car, and she started by standing and waiting for me, and then I saw her come around all 4 circles of my car with sort of a dragging movement with her arms swiping. And when I saw her out there, I had no idea what she could have been doing to my car. I knew that she may have been...
Don't tell me what you thought. I don't care what you thought.
Okay.
You have pictures of your car and you have a police report.
I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
These are the 2 that printed out. And then this is the police report. It spans all 4 doors of my car. Unfortunately, there are only 2 pictures that showed up.
Did you scratch our car?
No, I did not.
Tell me what happened when you left Trader Joe's.
We got into the car and we went home. We were going to my grandmother's. When I go from San Leandro to Stockton, where my family is, we usually stop at that Trader Joe's. It's right off the highway. It's very convenient for me. After all of this happened, it ruined my trip and I went home. I was devastated. I was very angry.
What do you mean after all of this happened? What
Well,
happened?
she told Erin on the phone that I had done this to her car, you know, involved a 14-year-old in this. It just really, it hit. And then when I got accused of this and a police report was put out, brought into court.
Can I see the underlying paperwork, please,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
went along with her application for a restraining order?
Yes, ma'am. Since we've established that, most of that is fallacious. It's false. There's nothing about bipolarity nor schizophrenia.
Okay. In your application for an order of protection, which is, I assume, written in your own hand, you say Angela came to my place of work unannounced, and she later called my son and verbally abused him. Did you speak to Aaron later?
I did speak to Aaron.
Tell me what happened when you spoke to him.
I spoke to him and I asked him why he was saying those things to
Saying
his
what
father.
things?
That I had vandalized the car, that I'd gone into her work looking for her, harassing, stalking, using those words. Aaron and I have never had any problems. I haven't seen the children in almost a year because of this behavior. I've refused to allow them in my home when I'm there.
Why?
Because of her. She debriefs them every time they go home. It's a drama from Friday to Sunday. Phone calls. It's just never a drop-off pickup. It's always something. And I couldn't handle it. Our marriage has been in jeopardy for almost 2 years because of this.
In your application for a restraining order,
Yes.
you say Angela is explosive
Yes.
and goes on and off her medication for schizophrenia and bipolar illness.
That's according to my ex-husband.
Did you ever tell her that?
Absolutely not.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. When did he tell you that she was bipolar and schizophrenic?
When he left her in February, it was February 27th, he left because they were having a domestic dispute.
Okay, so he left and in
February, yes.
Go ahead.
I know I won't live that one down. I'm sorry.
You won't?
I know. I'm sorry. So, anyway, his brother brought him into town. He didn't have any money. He didn't have a job. Nothing. Brought him into town. He said he wanted to see the kids. And from that point, he had not seen the kids for 9 months. Okay?
So why would you tell me that he didn't see the children in February when he did?
Well, no, because I'm sorry, I'm really nervous today. I'm very, very sorry.
That's nervous is not an answer, madam. You told me a very cogent story about everything that you allegedly saw with regard to this lady, how she stalked your car, how she bent down, how she had sweeping motions. But when I asked you a question a half a dozen times, you refused to give me an honest answer about when your husband last saw his children.
He wasn't at my house on February 15th, which was
I didn't ask you anything about February 15th. I didn't even know when Aaron's birthday was.
Okay.
I asked you February. You said 9 months. He said February. Wasn't until I was planning to call Aaron and find out whether he had seen his father in February that you finally said he saw him in February. Do you understand that that gives me cause to pause?
Yes.
Well, it does. Do you take medication?
No, ma'am.
You ever been diagnosed as schizophrenic?
No, ma'am.
Bipolar?
No, ma'am. Your Honor, it was not February 27th that we separated. It was the beginning of the month. He was in Point Reyes. He decided to stay there with a friend at a bed and breakfast to do some work on the home. He was at her house. He called me from her house.
I understand that.
Angela Ricker says her husband's ex-wife, Sally Ricker, falsely accused her of vandalism.
Now, you let him stay with your children? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Have your children spent time with the plaintiff in her home?
Yes, they have.
And they've come home in one piece?
Basically.
Not for a year.
Shh. Others to be protected. Absolutely. Angela has no discretion when she is angry. My children should never be anywhere near this person.
They have a history of domestic violence.
Was there a history of domestic violence with you?
I left.
That's just a second. That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
So there was a history of domestic violence with you.
With my husband.
So I got it. And you allowed that situation to go on more than once?
Yes.
You allowed your children to remain in a situation where there was domestic violence?
I left that
You let it go
situation.
on for a long time? Do you understand, Mrs. Richter? Do you have a full-time job?
I do.
How long have you been working for the same place?
This job I have currently is 4 months.
Do you have a significant other or a husband?
No, I do not.
Are you working? Take your hands out of your pockets.
Not right now, no.
Why not? Is not an answer.
I had a job up until April 1st working on airplanes. I was let go from that job.
Up until April 1st, were you paying child support?
I was.
How much?
$411 a month was taken from my checks.
How long had you been paying the $411?
Only for a month at that point, and then there was a large gap between that point and the last time I held a job.
Well, Mr. Richter, that's unacceptable, sir.
I understand that.
Very unacceptable. No, not
I'm
unacceptable.
injured, Your Honor. I'm injured.
Very unacceptable, sir.
I do understand that. I was injured at my last job,
Yeah?
and the injury prevented me from working.
What was the last job?
The last job was working for Vortex Stores.
Yeah?
And
What year?
From June to August of 2006.
Well, that's a couple of months, sir.
I understand that. I was injured. I had a severe back injury.
So that you were out of work for 2 months.
I was out of work until I got a job in March of 2007.
Who supports you?
Workman's Comp was supposed to be, but the company that hired me is fighting all of that, and so Workman's Comp did not pay my payments. That's currently
So you've been
in
separated.
litigation.
You've been separated from your former wife since 2002.
Since 2002.
Since 2002, until you were injured. Just listen to me carefully. Until you were injured in June of 2006, were you regularly paying child support?
I was. I regularly paid child support when I had a job.
That's not my question. Don't play with me.
Oh, I'm
you
not
two
playing
people
with you,
deserve
Your Honor.
each other. You two people deserve each other. Not when you were working. How old are you?
I'm 40.
You have 3 children.
I understand
There is
that.
no question that you have to be employed regularly. And I don't care whether you work at McDonald's or if you don't have another job, if you work at a car wash, drying cars, if you can't do something else. You have 3 children. No wonder she's furious with you. You work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a registered nurse.
So you earn a reasonable living?
Yes, I do.
So you support the family?
Yes, I do.
Right. No wonder she's furious with you. Collect cans if you have to, but you send money. And if she's angry with you, unfortunately, she took it out on the wrong person. Because I don't believe you, madam, that you saw her vandalize your car. I don't believe you. The case was dismissed, was it not?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, did anybody else ask you the questions that I asked you about the name of this person who did your nails, why you traveled cross town to get your nails done? Was the person who tried this case?
No, he did not.
He did not?
No.
Because he doesn't understand that you don't travel cross town to just walk into a nail salon. You can walk into a nail salon anywhere. You don't have to travel 4 miles cross town to do that. A lot of baloney. I don't believe you. I believe that you're angry with him. And I believe that you're angry with her because she's an enabler, because she's working. He's not, at least on the books anywhere, and he's not paying support. I got that you're angry. But you can't do this. This is nonsense. And I don't believe you.
Well, I saw it happen.
No, it didn't. I think that you probably even scratched your own car. But I don't believe that she scratched your car. I don't believe that this professional woman scratched your car.
I wouldn't have done that to
No
my car.
way. No way. And when you lie to me once, I don't believe you again. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Start working, sir. That's what you're supposed to do. The counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
James White's fiancée Karen Rundell owes for a loan to retain a lawyer. Karen says she gave her paycheck to James the entire time they lived together.
Mr. White, you and the defendant lived together, according to the complaint that I've read, for a period of time. And it is your claim that during that time you made a loan to her in the amount of $5,000 as a retainer for an attorney because she was having some legal problems. The defendant says that while she acknowledges that you wired the money into a joint bank account that you had for the attorney, that money was paid back because all that money that was in the joint bank account was put in by both of you subsequently. So the money was repaid.
In my opinion, yes, it was.
When did you start living together, Mr. White?
We started living together in April of '04.
How long had you known each other before you moved in together?
I knew of her approximately a year prior to that.
What does that mean?
Well, I was best friends with her brother and basically met her through her brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you moved in together in April of 2004, did you move into her place, your place, or a mutual place?
My place.
And, Your Honor, it was July of '04.
She's probably right, Mr. White.
Yeah, we had a birthday party for me in April, so yeah, then it was shortly after that. That's correct.
What was the financial arrangement when she moved into your house?
Financial arrangement? We really didn't establish any. I paid my bills and she paid her bills. She did insist that she put her check into my checking account. That didn't have anything to do with this particular item.
Just a second.
Yeah.
She put her paycheck into your checking account.
That's correct.
How much was your paycheck, Ms. Rundell?
$16.88 a month. And it was not a joint checking account. It was his checking account. I did not have access to that account in any way.
When did you make your first deposit into his checking account of $16.88?
I believe it would have been the month of July. I moved in roughly maybe the second week in July after we'd returned from vacation.
So let's be on the safe side. Let's say August.
That would be safe to say.
And how many months did you put your paycheck into that joint account?
Every month.
Until when?
Until January. My paychecks ended in January. Unemployment
August,
started.
September, October, November, December. 5 months.
And January.
And January.
Correct.
So it's 6 months, and that's easily verifiable by looking at your bank statement.
No, I don't agree with her putting that much money in there. She didn't have any credit, so she was using my bank to cash her checks. I wasn't aware that she was putting that money into my checking account every time.
This is a savings account statement right here. I could have put it in my savings had I been allowed to. This shows that there was no money that went into this account until a tax return was automatically deposited in the month of March.
Do you have your bank statement, sir?
No, ma'am, I don't. I just have a check that I had wrote her. I didn't even know she had a savings account.
I don't care whether you knew she had a savings account or not, sir. You get a checking account statement every month.
Correct. Correct.
And every month you would see a deposit in there.
Right.
And that deposit would not be your deposit. I mean, we know what
Correct.
our deposits are. So she
Correct.
was depositing her check into your account. And that account would also show certain withdrawals if she was using your checking account as merely just a revolving door for her money. She was putting it in
Right.
and cashing it.
She was putting her check into my checking account during the beginning of her stay at my place, and then we were using my check to write checks for all the bills.
It was not in name a joint account, but it was a joint account because that money was being used to pay joint bills.
Correct.
$16.88 per month.
Correct.
Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let us assume everything that you say is correct. That for 6 months you put in months.
Yes.
That comes to $10,128. Now, why did you need an attorney?
I had filed a police report as a mandatory reporter with the police department there locally where I live.
Is it a criminal matter?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the matter still pending?
Yes, ma'am.
And you retained a private attorney?
Correct.
And you discussed that with Mr. White?
Correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, I had no knowledge of her making this report.
I don't care about the
Okay.
substance of the case.
Okay.
The need for an attorney, something else.
Correct. We did discuss the need for an attorney, and it was important that she hired a good one for this situation.
So what did you say to her?
So we made arrangements to lend her $5,000 off my credit card.
That's a conclusion, sir.
We had talked about this and discussed we needed to retain $5,000 for this attorney, and we decided to take this off of a credit card that I have. I had no credit card debts at all. One of the qualities she talked about with me is that I wasn't in any debt. This was a special occasion that I needed to help her out on, so I decided to take a credit card, dump the credit card into my checking account, and give her a check on November 28th for $5,000. She told me when she got her income tax that she would give me half of it in one lump sum and make payments on the rest, and I was fine with that.
That is not true.
Well, tell me what the discussion was, Ms. Rundell.
The discussion, there was never a discussion around the credit card, just like there wasn't a discussion about how we were going to pay our bills when the money was lumped together in the checking account. What we had discussed on many different occasions was how we were going to use the money wisely. This chunk of money, which would have been around $6,000 for the tax return, what were we going to do with it?
You were going
many
to
different. I was talking.
Sorry.
On many different occasions, we talked about different things. We talked about we would take a trip, but not too far. I didn't want to spend too much money. We talked about paying a big chunk of it to Bank One credit card, which the attorney came off of. We also talked about paying off his Washington state unemployment money that he still owed when I moved in was $4,000. It was down to $1,500. We wanted to eliminate that payment each month.
All right, let's get back to talking a little bit turkey, Ms. Rundell. It is your defense that you put in your check into the account and you were living like a married couple.
Correct.
And when you moved in together in July, it was your intention that your money be spent on household bills.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't need an attorney until what month?
October.
That's not a household bill. So that what it really did was cut your participation in the household bills in half. Because if you deposited $10,000 into this account to pay for your expenses during the course of that 6 months, madam, and you withdrew $5,000 out of it for your own personal use, then it's very possible that Mr. White is correct, that it was anticipated that you would be repaying this account when you got your tax return.
It wasn't repaying that account. The tax return coming in and was going to be used to pay bills wisely, not just on a credit card. This has nothing to do with paying back the credit card. It has to do with Mr. White and his continued abuse and harassment that has not stopped and will not stop.
It will stop when he gets his money back.
That's right.
Trust me, it won't stop.
There isn't a question in my mind that we probably wouldn't be here having this discussion if the two of you were still together. Because if you were still together, you would be continuing to contribute your $16.88 a month into this account. And eventually, this $5,000 would be paid back from payments to the credit card. But you're not together anymore. And Mr. White feels as if he's a fool because he had this outlay of money, and now you're not together anymore. You got your tax return back. There was discussion about paying back this, whatever, Capital One card or whatever it is. Some of the money that he gave you to pay your lawyer. You're still using the services of the lawyer Correct?
Correct.
Have you given the lawyer any more money?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you're still living off of that $5,000. And he says, minimally, our agreement was that she was going to continue to put her $1,688 into the account so we could at least pay the lawyer back from that money. That stopped. Listen, you want him to leave you alone?
I do.
Pay him his money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Alice Ramos is suing neighbor D'Angelo Trent for damages to her car. Alice says D'Angelo's son, 9-year-old D'Angelo Jr., crashed into her vehicle with his bike.
Mrs. Ramos, it is your complaint that this little boy right over here was on his bicycle, fell off of his bicycle, and scratched your car. You want his father to pay for the scratch on the car. Is that right? And Mr. Trent's chance. When did this happen?
June 19th of 2004.
Were you at home at the time?
Yes, it was a Saturday. We had had a yard sale at my residence, and this child here had been riding his bicycle the better part of the day, up and down.
What's your name?
D'Angelo Trent Jr.
D'Angelo?
Yes.
Did you know him before?
I've seen him
June
in the
19th?
neighborhood, but I didn't know whose child he was.
But you had seen him before?
Oh, yes.
For how long?
He's lived in our neighborhood as long as I can recall.
So you know him. This isn't
Right.
a child who you hadn't seen 100 times before.
Oh, definitely.
Alice Ramos says neighbor 9-year-old D'Angelo Trent Jr. damaged her car when he crashed his bicycle. D'Angelo's father, D'Angelo Sr., claims his son doesn't own a bike.
So what did you see when he fell off the bike?
He bumped into the bumper of my car, and he fell off his bicycle. At that point, I was not concerned about my car. Myself, my nephew Andrew, and my niece all ran out to the street to see if he was okay. He seemed okay, but he fell awfully hard for how quickly he jumped back up.
And subsequently you found a scratch on your car?
When we first checked, we saw what looked like rubber scraping on the bumper of the car. And I told the little boy, before he took off, I told him, that's okay, this can be buffed out, you can go. So he jumped on his bike and he took off, more scared than hurt, I think. And 10 minutes later, he comes back with another young man on the handlebars. And he and his friend got off, and he started to show the friend what he had done. Well, unbeknownst to us, we were more concerned in the beginning about his welfare. We didn't really inspect the car. I saw the rubber scrapes on the bumper. But he's showing him another area of the car which we had not seen. And there is a scrape on the trunk.
You have a picture of it?
No, I don't.
Why don't you have a picture of it?
As I go on to the story, you'll see why.
Okay.
There was a good gash to where the whole paint and primer, everything came off right down to the metal. And it was right at the height about where the handlebars are.
So what did you do next?
I said, did you do this with your bike? And he said, he nodded his head yes. I said, well, then you can't leave. I need to talk to you. He looked at me wide-eyed, scared, started to cry, jumped back on his bike, and took off, and left his little friend there. I asked his friend, do you know who this little boy is? I've seen him in the neighborhood many times, but I don't know who he is. And he says, yes, that's D'Angelo's son. And I said, D'Angelo, I know D'Angelo. I've known D'Angelo the father since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, since he grew up in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I said, can you take me to his house? So he walked.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Ms. Ramos, did Mr. D'Angelo say that he would take care of the problem?
Absolutely.
And that's why you had it fixed and you didn't take a picture? I'm just running ahead because that sounds like what you're going to tell me.
Yeah, I didn't take a picture because I had to call the police because we could not locate him, the father.
Why?
Because there was no one at the house. The house was all opened up, windows, doors, everything was opened up at the house. There was nobody there.
Okay, so when the police came, he said he would fix...
He told the police officers he would take care of it between me and him.
Okay, stop. And you had it fixed. How much did it cost you to have it fixed?
$300.
You have a receipt?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
He was there.
He was there.
How long have you known Mrs. Ramos?
22 years.
She a nice lady?
Nice lady.
Seems like a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Seems like a caring lady. Is concerned about your son?
Right.
More concerned about your son than her car?
Right.
Why don't you pay her the $300?
Because my son doesn't own a bike. He was on the peg.
He was riding a bike that day. Now, Mr. Trent, you seem like an intelligent man, sir.
I am.
If you had to make a choice as to whether Mrs. Ramos or your 9-year-old son was telling you the truth, who would you pick? Who would you pick, sir? I haven't even spoken to him. I know who I would pick.
I know the child that was riding the bike, and I know he's nowhere in court.
Listen
so I
to
don't
me,
know why my
sir.
son's here.
You weren't there. Mrs. Ramos, who you've known for 22 years,
Right.
says that your son was the one who was riding the bike. You weren't home. So I'm going to go back to my original question. If you had to make a choice as to whether your 9-year-old son, D'Angelo, was telling the truth, or Mrs. Ramos was telling the truth, who would you pick?
I would pick my son, of course.
Well, then you would pick wrong. Your son, and you weren't there, was riding the bike. Look at me, D'Angelo. Isn't that right?
No.
Baloney.
Judge, when you ask her if there were 2 people there was a person riding and he was on the pegs.
No.
Please ask her.
She said he was riding the bike. Is that what you told me?
That's right.
Was there 2 children there?
No. When the incident happened, there was only 1 child on the bike.
When he came back, she said there were 2 people. He was riding and there was another child on the handlebars. And then when she went out there and confronted them, he got scared and left the other kid there. And if he's not telling you that story,
the other child
I take him out to the barn. Judgment to the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
Lori Torres is suing her ex-husband, Eric Bush, for the balance on an Isuzu rodeo. Lori says Eric is trying to pull a fast one.
Miss Torres, this gentleman used to be your husband.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was your husband for a relatively short period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
You and your husband decided that since you had resolved all of the financial issues, there were very limited financial issues, that you got one of those quick divorces. You got in a little kit that you bought in a stationery store, 1, 2, 3, $50 in and out.
Yes,
over.
ma'am.
But this was the problem. When you separated, according to what I've read in your complaint, there were 2 cars.
Yes.
The 2 of you decided that he would keep the automobile that was titled in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
There was still a loan outstanding on that automobile, and Mr. Bush agreed that he would take full responsibility for that car by taking care of the payments on the car, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And taking care of the insurance on the car. Generally taking care of everything on the car. It was your car, but it was still in her name because you had lousy credit. So far, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had the car for 6 or 7 months.
Yes.
So you had one car, she had the other. One car that you were driving was now your car, although it was in her name, was stolen.
Yes, ma'am.
When was it stolen?
Around March, end of March.
And in what month did you start driving the car exclusively? What month did you separate and take that car?
October, November.
That's 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
In the time that you had the car, did your former wife drive the car?
No, ma'am.
When you were living together, did you have insurance on both cars?
Yes, ma'am.
When you took this car, did you get a separate policy of insurance?
No, ma'am.
How did you deal with it?
We both had both vehicles on the same policy.
Who paid the bill?
We split it. She paid what her car was, I paid mine.
So it all worked out beautifully?
Yes.
Until the car got stolen?
Yes.
And there was a deficit that was owed on the car to the loan company.
Yes.
Mr. Bush, you say that there was a $4,000 deficit. You wrote out a check for $2,000, and you said to Ms. Torres, I paid enough. Rest is yours.
No, ma'am. We spoke about this previously before the insurance came back and made the payment to the loan company, which didn't cover the remaining amount. We spoke about that previously, about splitting it.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell me about the conversation.
Well, ma'am, we spoke about it. I told her, the car wasn't in my name. I didn't have the car. He had it before we were married, even together. She made the bad decisions when she purchased the car, which put the car in debt automatically. And I told her, I said, I've taken care of it. We've gone back and forth. I didn't want the vehicle from the get-go, but I took it.
Just a second, listen to me. When you say you had discussions about it, did you come to an agreement? Is that what you're getting to? Or
yes, ma'am.
All I'm hearing is you told her. What did she agree to?
We agreed that whatever the insurance company did not pay, we would split it 50-50.
Good. Is that what you agreed to?
No, ma'am. There was no way I was in the position to make a deal
Mr.
to
Bush?
pay for half of the vehicle.
Just a second. Why would she do that?
I don't know. because it was her vehicle.
I don't believe that she did. No, it was your car. Let me ask you this question, sir. Let's say you kept this car for 20 years and it became a classic, not an old wreck, it became a classic. And during that 20 years' time that it's in her name, you finished paying off the car, you put a lot of money into the car, you put new paint into the car, you put new rims in the car, and you're going to sell it. And you have an opportunity to sell that car for a lot more than it was paid for initially. How would you feel if Miss Torres came to you and said, listen, the car's in my name, I want the money? What would you say?
I'd be upset.
Oh, why would you be upset? The car's in her name.
Because I invested time into that.
Well, but you made bad choices.
Yeah.
You invested in a car that wasn't in your name. You invested in it, you put in rims on it, you put in new paint, you put in new insides, and all of a sudden she comes back and she says, listen, it was really nice of you. Car's in my name. I just sold it for $15,000. You said, well, at least let's split it. She said, I don't want to split it with you. I want the whole thing myself. It's in my name. Isn't that what you're saying to me, Mr. Bush? You're saying I agreed to keep the car. She kept one. I kept the other. I made the payments faithfully. But something bad happened to the car. Why should I be responsible for what happened bad to the car when the car was in her name? Explain to me how that's different from the scenario that I just gave you.
She didn't invest a lot of time and money into that car. I did.
Do you see how foolish you sound, Mr. Bush? Very foolish. Now, you had a choice. You could have said, for all intents and purposes, this is my car, which is really what you said to her back in October. You said, it's my car. I can take my girlfriend out in it. I can take my fiancé out in it. I can take it to my wedding. I can take it on my honeymoon. You have nothing to do with this car. You do have a new girlfriend, right?
No.
Well, you did have,
I did.
because according to you, just a second. Ah, maybe I'm thinking about the wrong Mr. Bush. Hold on a second. Are you the same Mr. Bush that wrote right here? I'm write a check for $2,000 directly to the finance company. What happened to that girlfriend?
It ended.
Did you give her back the $2,000?
Yes.
Oh, you see, you can't even look at me in the eye and say I gave her back the $2,000.
She got it back.
I doubt it. So, Mr. Bush, you see you did have a choice, sir. If this was your car, you could have increased the premium on the insurance and had a $500 deductible. If the car had been stolen, they would have paid you practically everything for the car, right? That was your choice. You could have paid a little bit more insurance, and the car would have been completely covered. It was your car. That was your agreement with her. It was going to be your car. You just couldn't have a car in your name, couldn't get it financed because you had bad credit. Why did you have such bad credit?
It's not because I had bad credit, ma'am. It's because I had my Harley loan, and the car that she's driving is in my name also. So with 2 vehicle loans to get another vehicle.
Was the Harley insured on the same policy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. 3 months after he left. He reinsured it through our policy without my knowledge.
Just a second. So you know how to get cars covered, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is this your first marriage?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did it last?
Less than 1 year.
Perfect. You have no children together?
No, ma'am.
Even better. You say somebody was watching over me.
Definitely. Somebody was watching over me.
Right. Slick. How much is owed on the car? How much are they coming after you for?
The remaining balance is $2,226.37.
$2,226?
Yes, ma'am.
How many cents?
37 cents.
Can I see the letter, please?
That's the statement, and that's the remaining balance.
And the name of this loan company is?
Franklin Capital Corporation.
You don't mind if he writes his check directly to them, do you?
No, ma'am. But I'm also suing for the November payment and December payment I made for him.
Oh, you did?
Yes, ma'am.
2226 plus
$535 for November. January's late fees of $15. $528 for February, and $15 late fees for that also.
I have $33.19. Mr. Bush, you have to act responsibly, sir. Ladies aren't going to bail you out forever. You're not that good looking. Judgment for the plaintiff, you may amount to $3,319. That's all.
James Elmore says his sister, Shauna Padilla, owes for loans to make her mortgage payments. Shauna is countersuing for damages to her property.
Mr. Elmore, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you loaned her the money to make her mortgage payment for about a year.
Yes, ma'am. It was about 10 months probably. Yes, ma'am.
And you loaned her that money with the understanding that if she did not pay you back, the title to the mobile home would be put in your name.
Yes, ma'am. Either or, some kind of assurance that I'd get something out of it.
And Ms. Padilla says that there was never an agreement that you paid her mortgage, but that was like rent because you were in fact living there. Now explain to me how it came about that your sister and your mother were together in this mobile home.
Well, I moved to Mexico, and after I moved there, my sister had my mother move in with her. I was down there about 5.5 to 6 months. I came back in like July.
Where did you stay when you came back to work in July of 2004?
For the first probably month and a half, I stayed at her trailer.
So from, let's say, July and August.
In August, I was in California, in San Francisco.
When in August?
The 1st of August, I got a job traveling, working in refineries.
So you spent 1 month with your sister and your mother?
Probably about that.
Is that about right?
I wasn't there during that timeout.
Who was there?
She was there, man.
All right, so you say she was there. So you lived there for a month in July. When did you have this conversation with her about the mortgage?
I'd say it was in June. The end of June.
So before you moved in?
Yeah, I was still in Mexico before we had this conversation.
So in Mexico, she called you and said what?
That she's a couple of months behind on her payment. They're about to repossess it, and she moved my mom in with her, and I didn't want my mom to be, stuck out because she didn't pay her bills.
So?
So I came back, and I got a job building swimming pools and started paying, And she said that she wasn't working because she was waiting on a workman's comp thing to come through, which after a while,
don't speak to him. At my stage in life, I can only hear one person talk at a time. Yes, otherwise, I get confused.
But after a while, waiting on her workman's comp or whatever to start up so she could pay her own bills, it got kind of old. And she was quite a bit behind, about $1,100, I believe.
You were living in the trailer for the month of July.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would assume, at least for the month of July, you were going to pay some rent.
Yes, ma'am, but this month of July, I was paying the month of May's rent. I was paying her back payment.
If you paid her the back payment for the month of May, how much did you pay for rent in July when you were living there?
Well, I never had a set payment, I guess I would owe for that month of rent, but...
I guess you might.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were working, right?
But see, none of that... Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You don't think that she should pay for a time when you were living there and not paying rent?
Yes, ma'am, but I was paying her bills too, evidently, because she was not working. She had no income coming in whatsoever.
How much in total did you pay towards this trailer?
Trailer and utilities.
Trailer.
Trailer, I don't really have an exact on just a trailer, but I would just send money orders, and whatever they put it on, that was that.
That was nice of you. I don't hear anything about a loan.
Yes, ma'am. That's what all this was a loan.
Well, that's what you're telling me, sir. That's not what they tell me.
Yes, ma'am. But I would not have come back, to pay all her bills. I was living in motels this entire time.
Not in July.
No, I got that job in August.
Not in July.
Or the past 5 months.
Listen to me. Where have you been living the last 5 months?
A couple of months I was there. But then she got mad because of cell phone, so she told me to get out of her house. She ended up calling the police to have me removed.
Miss Petit?
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, my roommate here, he was having to loan me money because I was sending all my checks
I'm talking about the last 5 months, Mr. Elmore. Where were you living?
I've been living with him for the last month and a half. And a little while I had to live in a shed next door to the house, believe it or not. The night after she called the police, they made me leave and told me I couldn't come back. I stayed in a shed for about 3 weeks.
Mr. Elmore, you and I are not coming together on the same wavelength.
Yes, ma'am.
It's explain to me why you have a case of a loan.
Well, because
all of those things.
I paid off her trailer payment. Her trailer got paid for, and it all came from me, ma'am. Over $4,000 worth, and I was not living there.
Oh, Mr. Elmore.
I didn't have it separated.
Mr. Elmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an argument with your sister?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
What was the argument about, Mr. Elmore?
It started over the cell phone. She asked to borrow my cell phone, I wouldn't let her.
Why?
I don't know.
You didn't feel like letting her?
Yes, ma'am.
So
no, I had no reason, but I just told her no. So
fine.
She told me to get out of her house, and I told her no. I said, I paid all this. So she said it's in her name, and...
So she said it's in her name, get out of my house.
Yeah, exactly. I refused to leave. Well, she called the police.
And what happened when the police got there?
They made me leave. I left.
Is that when you filed this lawsuit?
It was a few days after that, when I was living in that shed. I was watching the TV, and I just happened to see your show, and afterwards I called,
What is your last name?
Elmore.
Miss Elmore, who do you live with now?
I live in the trailer with my daughter.
What about her?
She has moved into the trailer with me and my daughter. She lived there.
So that when I ask you a question, I expect you to give me a full answer. You live in the trailer with your daughter and this lady?
Yes.
Who
yes,
else lives there?
Just the three of us now.
Who pays the bills?
All three of us. Yes, ma'am.
Now, who was paying the bills, say, last July, August, September, October, November? Was your son paying the bills?
My son paid a lot. He did. I have never denied that, but I was paying too. It wasn't just Mike paying.
And your son contributed, according to him, some $4,000 over a 13-month period. Is that right?
Actually, it was more than that, but I've lost several receipts.
Now, Mr. Elmore,
Yes, ma'am.
would you be here today if it wasn't for this cell phone incident, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It'd been going through my mind for a long time, you know, because I wanted my money back.
Well, you're not going to get all your money back, sir. You lived there for
I'm aware of that.
You lived there for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of that.
Ma'am, he came back in March, and he did not leave again until the end of August, the last week of August.
No,
March, April, May, June, July. So it's 6 months.
Not the last week of August. It was about the middle of August.
So the date on the last receipt I had was 5/5 of 05.
Just a
so
second.
that's May. That's not March, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying your mother is a liar? She says you were there March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So is what you're telling me that your mother is lying to me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying I was not there then.
Now, tell me, in March, he came back for how long?
It was about 2 weeks, I believe. And then he left out for the job. He never actually got to work on that job. He got sent back right after that.
And when did he come back?
I probably at the end of March.
So was he living in the trailer in April?
Yes, ma'am.
May?
Yes, ma'am.
June?
Yes, ma'am.
July?
Yes, ma'am.
And part of August?
No, ma'am,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
not.
And part of August?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the previous July he was there when he came back from Mexico?
Yes, ma'am.
For 1 month?
Yes.
Miss Judy, she says that I was there before then. When like I said, I got the date on the first receipt that I paid is 7/14 of 04. I was paying a May 15th bill because when she called me, she was 3 months back.
Listen to me, Mr. Elmore.
She got her dates confused, ma'am.
No, Mr. Elmore, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister does not deny, nor will she deny to me today, that she called you and said, I've gotten behind in my bills.
I didn't call him, ma'am.
Or contacted him, or whatever, and said, I need some help. She's not denying that you gave her some help because the mortgage was behind. What your family is saying to you is you lived there for a longer period than you've indicated to me today, not just a couple of days, which you say in your complaint, you know, that your employer pays for your motel and that's where you were living, that you were living there for a period of at least, according to both your mother, who I believe, and your sister, July, part of March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So at least 6.5 months. And for that, living there for all of that time, you contributed $4,200. That's pretty reasonable. You have a roof over your head, you have gas, you have electric, you have food, you have whatever else it takes. And if you helped your family out for another 3.5 months, you don't come in here and bother me about that. What you're annoyed about is that your sister, for whatever reason, after you said she couldn't use your cell phone, told you to leave. So you got annoyed, and then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television and said, aha! I'm going to go and file a small claims court case. Mr. Elmore,
Well,
Mr. Elmore, get a life. Case is dismissed.
I desire excuse. You may step out.
Excuse me.
I have a counterclaim.
It's dismissed.
Okay.
If he bothered you, annoyed you for a year, and you let him bother you and annoy you for the year, that makes you not too smart.
I moved out of the state to get away
Very
from him.
good. That's exactly what you should do.
Kenny Loud says neighbors Keith and Tammy Cavanis owe for the return of 2 dirt bikes. The defendants are countersuing for harassment and defamation of character.
Miss Loud, you and the defendant were neighbors. You purchased 2 dirt bikes at some point, and then, according to your complaint, you and your husband separated. You couldn't maintain the payments on the bikes, so you sold them to your neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
And they acknowledged that you did, in fact, sell them to them, and the price for the 2 bikes was, I believe, $1,800. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You made only $300 worth of payments, is that right? Three
yes, ma'am.
payments of $100 each.
Yes, ma'am.
And your last payment was in February?
Yes, ma'am.
She wants her money. Do you have a defense?
We attempted to make the payment, and she refused it.
Show me.
Here's the return. That's the receipt for the money, or the certified letter, and that's where they refused it and sent it back. We called her.
March 23rd. When was your payment due?
On the 15th.
Of
we
what?
called her on March 15th. So she sent us a text on March 14th, and we had gone out of town and we had forgotten about it. So we called her and told her we were out of town and asked if it would be okay if we paid it on the 20th when we returned. And if not, my nephew had access to our funds, and he could bring it down to her right then because it's only a few houses down. And she said, no, it's okay, wait when you return on the 20th. And then she went on, started talking about other issues.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Okay, and when they were out of town, they did not call me. I called them on Sunday. And
Sunday, what day?
Sunday was March 15th, I believe. And they told me at that point that they were out of town and that their nephew could pay me the money. I had talked to their nephew during the week. He did not mention anything about the money, and neither did I, because in February...
Why didn't you pick this up? Did you get this certified
I wasn't
mail?
at home. I had somebody staying with me due to the threats that he had said to me when I went to collect the money March 20th.
Hold on. I don't understand this. This is addressed to you. This is addressed to you. This envelope and this name is addressed to you.
I'm sorry, if the receipt...
Don't show me the receipt. That you filled out.
I brought the wrong envelope.
That you filled out, madam. This is addressed to you.
I know. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I brought the wrong envelope.
Well, that's not my problem.
I know it. I messed up. But
it's very messed up. It's very messed
the
up.
thing is, she came to our house and she refused on the 20th when we returned, and she refused.
Oh, you have no defense for not paying up for the bikes. What's your defense?
The defense that she came to our house on the 20th. When we returned, we told her we were going to pay on the 20th. She was not home. She showed up at our home intoxicated, demanded the dirt bikes back. And we said, no, Kenny, you said that it would be okay when we returned on the 20th that we would pay you. He was there. He was a witness. And saw that she refused. I want to know today, as you stand here, what your defense is. Right now, you have the 2 dirt bikes. We had the cash to give to her.
Right now, you have the 2 dirt bikes.
The deal was that I lost a job, so we did not have to pay on the 15th. The deal was that we could pay.
The contract does say the 15th, but she said she'd work with us.
And we'll work with us.
I want to know, you're standing here today, what is your defense for not paying her for the merchandise that you have?
That she would not take the payment when we tried to
Well,
take
what
it
do you
her.
think she's doing here? To check out my makeup?
She wanted the bikes. She wanted the bikes back.
She wanted the
Her
bikes back.
ex-husband returned, and he wanted the bikes back. She told us in
didn't-
February
I don't-
he wanted the bikes
Hey,
back.
I mean, thick. Are you people just thick?
We offered her the payment on the 15th.
What defense do you have today for keeping the bikes and not paying for them? The fact that you're annoyed?
We attempted. We had the money. We want to pay him. We want to pay her. We wanted to pay it.
Oh, so
And
you
she
want to
refused
finish?
it. Yes, we wanted to make every payment on time. We wanted to make the payments early.
Fine. Well, you didn't make your payment on time. All right. So right now they owe you $1,500 on the dirt bikes.
On the
now,
dirt bikes?
What?
On the dirt bikes, I want the return of the dirt bikes. I don't want the money. I want the dirt bikes because
That's not the deal. You're getting your $1,500 back. I don't care what you want. You made the deal. Now, you have some other repossession fees. I want you to show me where you paid a bill for repossessing the dirt bikes.
I have not paid anything yet.
Good. Then you don't get
I
that.
have an invoice.
Then you don't get it.
Even with the invoice saying, because I still have to pay it.
No, I don't want it. But I'm curious, when did you hire somebody to repossess the bikes?
I think it was around April 9th.
You have that on the invoice?
I don't know. I think the invoice is just dated the day that they sent it to me. June 1st is the date of it.
No, not interested. Take it, throw it in the garbage. They didn't get the property.
But I still have to pay the money.
That's your problem, if you're going to pay the money, and I don't think you are. So far, they owe you $1,500. Now, you want to get to the last part of your lawsuit, which is defamation of character.
Yes, ma'am. I was the assistant leader in a Girl Scout troop. She was the leader, and both of our daughters were in it. And on Friday, March 20th, is when I went over there to get the dirt bikes. And then Saturday is when she sent an email to all of the parents, to the girls in the Girl Scout troop, saying that I was no longer going to be the assistant leader.
Let me see.
I had not resigned.
just want to see what she says in it.
I have mine also if you want to compare the two.
This is not defamation. She says, as some of you know, I am needing an assistant to help me with the troop. Kenny no longer will be the assistant, so I need help ASAP. She doesn't say anything else about you.
I was forced out of the group by her when I had sent.
I don't care.
I had talked to the.
That's not defamation.
When
show me something that indicates that she defamed you in some way, madam.
Okay, because of that email, I found out about that email, and I had called corporate Girl Scouts, and then they came in, and at that point she had said, well,
don't tell me what she said.
She said it to.
Yeah, they owe you $1,500. Now I'm going to entertain in 30 seconds or less your counterclaim.
She kept calling counsel over and over again. They were just.
Don't
irritated.
tell me what they were just.
And she told them that I.
You can't tell me what she told them. That's hearsay.
I have the letter from the counsel.
I don't
she
care
told them
if you
that
have
I
a
stole
letter.
money.
Just a second. I don't care if you have a letter from counsel. I don't read letters from counsel. Letters from counsel are hearsay. You have anything that she wrote?
Oh, I have the letter that she sent to all the girls. Well, she sent it to counsel to send it to the girls, and saying that I told them stuff, which I didn't. And then the letter from counsel says that she had me investigated for stealing money.
I don't care. That's hearsay. Do you understand?
That she had me investigated for stealing money?
That's hearsay. This is not defamation. She's saying that I understand that Tammy Kavanagh communicated with you by email or in person about a week and a half ago that I had quit the troop. That's not what she said at all in her email to the troop that you gave me. She just said I will be needing a new assistant and Kerry will no longer be. She didn't say you quit. Show me where it says you quit.
I have the resignation letter.
I don't have it.
I didn't ask you anything.
Okay. Do you still have that email?
Have that?
You still have it. Kenny will no longer be the assistant
That's what she
leader.
says. She will no longer be. She doesn't say you quit. And it's all a matter of semantics anyway. It's nonsense, ladies. You owe her $1,500 for the dirt bikes that you have. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Carpenter Jeffrey Castleberry is suing his former boss, Megan Watson, for non-payment of services rendered. Megan says Jeffrey's work was substandard.
Mr. Castleberry, you worked for the defendant in her construction business. You quit over some social problem that you had. It seems that you were dating her sister. According to you, got into some sort of a kerfuffle with her sister and decided it would be best if you didn't work with her anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
So you quit. And you claim at the time that you quit, you were owed wages. Miss Watson seems to acknowledge that you were owed wages, but she said that you took some tools that belonged to her and didn't return them, but primarily that she went and examined the work that you had done and found it to be substandard, and she had to arrange to have that work done by somebody else, so she doesn't owe you any money. And she's counterclaiming for the tools and having to have the work redone. It's a little nonsense. Not the tools necessarily, the work redone is nonsense. When did he start to work for you?
About the middle of March of 2007.
And what was the financial arrangement that you had with him?
He got paid on the jobs once I got paid on the jobs. It was
Is
a
that how-
percentage of each job.
Is that how you were paid, sir? A percentage of each job?
I don't know if it's a percentage. It was a set rate for each job. When she was paid for it, she would write me a check and she would attach one of these pay statements, which has the check number, the date, how much I was paid, which job it was, and what I did. And each time she gave, she would give, this was the first one and second, etc.
Okay, can I have it, please? And when did you quit, sir? On what date?
April 2nd.
So you only worked there a couple of weeks. Were you paid this last one, this
Yes.
pay statement, April 3rd?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid on this?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid on this?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's for all the time that you worked there?
That was for the other jobs, yes.
For the other jobs. Had you ever had a discussion with her about any work that you did while you were working for her that was unsatisfactory?
No, ma'am.
So any work that you did pursuant to that list that you had and work that you completed, you got one of these and you were paid for it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, give me the figures on the work that you did that you were not paid for.
$355.
Okay. But he did do this $355 worth of work.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you owe him $355.
Yes, ma'am. There's another job that he did an estimate on for me, and per his estimate, the door was wrong. I had to pay someone else to correct the work that from where he estimated the door being wrong.
You mean he measured it wrong?
Yes, ma'am. It was too small.
Show him.
Mr. Moore's door that you measured, and you said it was a 6-0 door. The rough opening on that door was...
The door that we both measured.
You measured that door.
We both
Just
measured.
a second. You said that you measured it and she measured it?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
As we measured the door...
Who's we?
Her and I.
You were there together?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there together?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, then you have a problem. You're the construction boss.
Yes, ma'am.
So?
I did measure the door. I wrote the information down that he gave me and consulted
Were
with
you
the customer.
there?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, then you should have checked him a little bit better. You owe him $355. Now, are you angry with him for some reason?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because he stole some of my tools, and I have
Okay.
the receipts for those.
Tell me what tools he stole.
I have a reciprocating saw that I purchased right here.
Do you
that
have
I
that?
no longer have.
No, ma'am.
Where is it?
I never had any of her tools. As a matter of fact, some of my tools were left at her parents' house, and after I quit, I asked if she could meet me up the street to get my tools. She let me get the tools out of the back of her truck, which was my saw, and I had a bucket with my tools in it, and she was present when I did that.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, but I believe my tools were in his bucket because we worked out of the same truck.
Well, what do you mean you believe?
Because I no longer have my tools as of the day
Well,
I
is
gave
that what
him
makes
back
you think
his.
he has them?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not proof, madam, of anything. Who is this?
This is my sister.
This is the one that you were dating?
Yes, ma'am.
Didn't work out?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You owe him $355. It didn't work out. You have to pay for the work. You know, it's not always a good idea to go to work for relatives.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it tends to be messy. But, Miss Watson, what I have before me are statements of when he worked for you, what you paid him, and it appears that until there was this brouhaha with your sister, his work was fine. His work became unsatisfactory is when there was a problem. So I find that a little suspect. You have to pay him the $355 that you owe him. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
George Heath claims neighbor 17-year-old Marquise Peppers falsely accused him of being a pedophile and then assaulted him.
Mr. Heath, Mrs. Coleman is your neighbor, and this is her son.
Affirmative.
Hmm?
Affirmative.
You are 17,
Yes, ma'am.
but large for your age.
Yes.
And it is your claim that Miss Coleman's son assaulted you.
Assault and battery, ma'am.
Depends on where you live. And you want to be compensated. And Miss Coleman and her son say that you started it, and he just finished it. So, your first name?
Marquise.
How long have you and Mr. Heath been neighbors?
I don't know how long he's lived there, but I lived there for 2 years.
How long have you been there, Mr. Heath?
Since May of 2006.
So a little less than a year.
Affirmative.
A year. Have you gotten along for that year that you've been living there?
Up until recently.
What happened recently, Mr. Heath?
On April 25th of 2007, I was outside my door. Mr. Peppers was also outside his door. He was calling me a pedophile. He was saying I should never, never, never say the name of his little sister. I admit I may have started behavior that was more of an interest to a proctologist. But
I don't know what you mean by that, sir.
I was upset that being called a pedophile after 30 years of being a registered nurse here in California.
So he was calling you names and told you never to mention the name of his sister. What did you say to him?
Well, he challenged his authority by claiming that if I said in the name of his sister one more time, that he would beat me down. Being that I was very upset because of the general rumor within the neighborhood of me being a pedophile, I did say her name. Her name is Sanji.
And then what happened?
I repeated it a few times as he came
So you taunted
closer.
him. You were grown-up.
Yes, I was an angry
You were a
grown-up.
grown-up. You were an angry grown-up.
Yes.
And he had called you a vile name.
Quite,
ahead.
especially when I have no record anywhere.
I understand you have no record anywhere.
Okay.
Got it. So You were taunting him, and what did he do?
He pushed me, and then,
How did he push you, Mr. Heath?
I do believe, I will take his word for it, that he belly bumped me.
Okay.
I turned to catch myself, and I was struck on the back. I cannot say exactly if it was him or his friend LJ, but I did sustain an injury
LJ
to my
with
back.
him?
He was right next to him, shoulder to shoulder.
So they both came over to you after you had repeated his sister's name several times.
Affirmative.
And he belly bumped you. When you turned around, somebody hit you in the back.
Yes, well, turning around in that, I was trying to catch myself as I was falling.
And as a result of that, were you injured?
Yes, I have a report from my chiropractor that I have injuries from T6, that's thoracic spine vertebrae 6 to 7. These were significant enough for me not to be able to work for 2 months, which I have documentation from my employer of such.
All right, Mr. Pep, let me hear you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. On the day of that incident, the day before, we had got into like 2 days before we got into an argument.
About what?
I was sitting outside because my friend stayed next door to him, and I was sitting outside talking to them, and then my sister.
Talking to whom?
My friends that stay next door to him. And so I'm sitting outside, and then my mom calls me, and she sent my sister to come get me. And my sister comes, and she says, "Marquise, your mom wants you." And then so he reaches over, and she's in between these stairs. He reaches over and pats her on the head. And I say, "Man, don't touch my sister."
Why not?
Because, like, I don't know what it is, but ever since he's moved there, I've been, like, real uncomfortable around him. And he's, like, he acts real, friendly and stuff towards kids, like, little girls. And I just, with my sister, I keep, I'm overprotective about my sister. And so...
But he just touched her on the top of the head.
I know, but it was, like, the way how he did it. Like, he rubbed his hand through her hair. And, like, and I didn't like the way it happened, but I wasn't disrespectful to him. I just said, can you don't...
Fine, you said, don't touch my sister. That's all you said to him.
Yeah, but as I said that, my mom walked out, and I told her what happened, and then so they got into an argument.
Did you get into an argument, Miss Coleman, with him?
As I walked out, I heard George yelling at my son, and all I heard was the end of the conversation, and I asked him...
What did you hear?
He was calling my son ignorant and a pervert for saying what he said or whatever.
Well, did you say anything to him?
I said, don't touch my sister's head, and he called me a pervert because he said that I was looking at him as that, like, I don't know why he said it, but he just called me a pervert because I told him not to touch my sister.
And then?
That's when I came out.
Right.
And I heard them arguing, and my son said, George touched Sanji, and that's when I went to tell him he doesn't have to put his hands on her, do not touch her.
Did your son tell you how he touched her?
No, well, the thing...
Well, why didn't you get that information, Miss Coleman?
I did. When I came over, he said he touched Sanji on the head. And right then, when she said he touched Sanji, I just verbally told him, to keep his hands off my daughter, and I asked my children to come into our yard.
Okay, so that was a couple of days before.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened, Mr. Pepper?
And then the day of the incident, we were outside, we played basketball and all of that outside, and George comes out and was playing the guitar to the little girl in the window, and I was just sitting there.
Playing a guitar?
Yeah, playing a guitar and singing to her. But he's sitting there playing a guitar to her, and that's not my relative or anything, so I didn't say anything about that. And somehow he got into an argument with other kids that was on the block, and so they were arguing, and somehow they said to him something about, oh, you touch kids and stuff. And he was like, yeah, I touch a lot of kids. And he started naming off kids on the street, like girls and stuff that he's touched. And then he somehow said Sanji's name, my sister. And then so that was when I got into the conversation. I asked him, I said, man, don't talk about my sister.
Did you call him a pedophile?
No, I've never called him a pedophile.
Did you call him a pervert?
No, I've never called him a pervert.
What did you call him?
I didn't call him anything. I just said, do not touch my sister.
Okay. And what did he say to you?
And he got into an argument with me, calling me a pervert and that I'm immature and stuff because I'm calling him out on stuff. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. All I said was, don't touch my sister. And then so we're sitting here, we're arguing. And I stepped back, and my friend was with me also, and he was talking to him. He was like, there's no need for you to say her name. And I pulled him back, and George says it again. He was like, oh, what do you mean, Sanji? And I was like, don't say her name. And then so he takes off his glasses, and he untucks his shirt, and he steps up to me, and he says, what do you mean, Sanji? Sanji, Sanji? And so I had chest bumped him, and it was like a fake stumble type, and he just stumbled back and hit the wall and purposely fell to the ground. And he made a lot of weird noise and stuff that, it could tell that it was being act. And like some kids was laughing at him and stuff because he was acting it out. And his wife said, "I'm calling the police." And then so I looked at him, and then I turned around and my sister was calling me. So I turned around, picked up my sister, and then I told my friend, I was like, "Let's go." And then we walked to his house.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes, ma'am.
What facts do you have that suggest to you that Mr. Heath's intentions with regard to the kids who play in the neighborhood, either singing to them or patting your sister on the head, is anything other than just genuine caring for children?
It's because of the way like he does it. It's like it's real weird. You know, I don't feel comfortable around him. And for that, I don't feel like my sister should be around him. I've never been disrespectful to him or anything.
You assaulted him, sir.
No, ma'am, but
yes, you did.
Incident,
you assaulted him, sir. He was taunting you, which is not very smart of a grown-up man to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Not very smart to a big 17-year-old, you know, who certainly outweighs him and certainly outmuscles him. But you have no right to put your body on him in any way. You should have been smarter, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Now,
but I had to confront the lie.
Mr. Heath, have you ever been arrested for a sexual offense on a child?
No, ma'am.
The next question is irrelevant, therefore, and you've never been convicted. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
You have any children of your own?
Yes, ma'am. We have 4 biological children and 1 foster child.
How old is the foster child?
She is 32.
So you raised her?
Affirmative.
And your 4 children, how old are they?
We have a boy who's now Sergeant George Heath of the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. We have twin boys, Pete and Repeat. One is Staff Sergeant Joseph Heath of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. Our other son is Specialist David Heath, who recently was last week was taken out by shrapnel in Baghdad, but he's doing just fine. He'll be in the United States today. And then my daughter, Rebecca Heath, she's 23. She's a certified nurse's aide and a senior in health administration.
Have any of these children visited your home?
Yes.
You live in your home with your wife?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
31 years, ma'am.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes, ma'am.
We are supposed to rejoice in the differences among people in this country. That means that not everybody is made the same.
I know that.
Some people say affirmative rather than yes. Some people may appear to be, to you, a little peculiar, but that doesn't make them a pervert.
No, ma'am,
That doesn't make them strange. That wouldn't inspire me to say to somebody who's the father of 4 children, "Don't put your hands on my sister." Now, if you said to me that he hit her in the behind or tapped her in the butt, I would say, go over there and you can knock his lights out. Or what you told me was he patted her on the head, and you just didn't like the way that looked. And you went outside and all you heard was your son saying to you, he touched your daughter, and you blew. You didn't listen. I think that what you have to do is celebrate the differences amongst people, Mr. Pepper. Mm-hmm. You have perfect right to say to your daughter, listen, I don't want you to go over to neighbors, strangers, or whatever. Absolutely no business, despite the fact that Mr. Keith was not smart.
Yes, ma'am.
Has no right to go over there and chest bump him, belly bump him, or whatever other kind of bump him he did. His lawsuit asks for $1,700. He's going to get that. You have a counterclaim. Counterclaim is that he filed false charges against you with Child Protective Services. When did he file charges against you with Child Protective Services?
Per the letter, it says on 5/2 that there was an investigation.
And what makes you think that it was Mr. Heath who filed those charges?
Okay, when we went to court for a restraining order, that was denied. Mr. Heath subpoenaed the CP.
Who went to court for a restraining order?
George filed a restraining order on me and my son.
Well, he should have.
Right.
Your son used force against him.
Right.
Was it granted?
No, they were both denied.
Oh, that's ridiculous. In my judgment, it's ridiculous. What grounds do you have to file for an application for a protective order against Mr. Heath?
Because when the incident happened, my daughter constantly goes over there, and it's like he's everywhere my daughter is, he's behind her. Like it's in a place that he goes across the street. that my daughter plays at. He's never over there, never over there. But every time my daughter is over there, George is over there. You know what I'm saying? It's like it seems like everywhere my daughter is, I see George. Normal places where he doesn't go. He's normally in his yard. Like he comes in my yard and uses the water hose. He was told by the judge, he was told by the police officers that he keeps calling on me to stay away from us. We were told to stay away from each other. I agreed. But he constantly, like, if my daughter's in the yard, I don't let her out the yard because of the situation. I'll make her stay in the yard and ride the bike. George will come over, open the gate, and use the water hose, or, you know, just do stuff to, you know, to have me try to have confrontation towards us.
What proof do you have that Mr. Heath called?
I don't have proof that he called, but for our restraining order, he had all the information. How does he know that CPS came to my house? When we went to court, he filed a subpoena for the CPS worker to come to our restraining order. That's how I assumed that he called. Because
did you have that information, Mr. Heath?
The reason I know that Ms. Johnson is a child protective worker is that she was at Ms. Coleman's door, and when I saw her, and I said, I don't think Ms. Coleman's there. She asked, you know, who are you? I identified myself and where I live, and then she identified herself, and we went into my apartment, and we had a discussion concerning, well, actually, one of the things we discussed is whether or not I am a pedophile. Obviously, I'm here, not arrested, so she felt there was no basis for the allegation that I'm a pedophile.
Did you make a call to Child Protective Services, sir?
Can I leave that under confidentiality?
See what I'm saying?
Well,
yes or no? I'll answer if you want me to.
The point is, Mr. Heath, if you had grounds in your judgment to place a call to Child Protective Services, because that's her counterclaim, she says that you had no basis. She believes that you did call.
Okay, that would be a different question. Would I have, if I called, would I have a basis? The answer is yes, I would.
Well, tell me what basis you had if you had called.
Okay.
Got it.
I'm sorry, I don't consider that very funny. The basis I have is that I have seen her use the most unusual type of child rearing, curse words at her daughter. I've seen her with an open hand strike her daughter in the head. Also, I am quite suspicious that her daughter has some type of minimal brain damage. I'm not sure if it's cerebral palsy.
Shh, quiet. You can't be quiet, you'll leave. Do you understand? Good. Go ahead.
I am not sure if it's cerebral palsy, or I'm not sure if it's attention deficit disorder, but I know she has fine motor coordination problems because one of the things I have done with the children is to plant a garden. And when Sanji came up to plant, she could not follow my simple instructions that I could get children half her age to do. So I am just...
Put your hand down. Go ahead.
I am quite concerned. I do know...
Okay, so that would be the basis. If you had called...
If I had called.
If you had called, that would be the reason that you called.
Affirmative.
Go ahead.
Okay. As far as me, the allegation was that I called my daughter the B word and I hit her with an open fist. My daughter is really, I would never, I do not use that word. I don't like that word. I don't like to be called that word because my mother called me that, and I would never call my children that, no matter how angry or what we were going through. So that's just ridiculous. And as far as me hitting my daughter with an open fist, there's just no...
Open hand.
Yeah, open hand. There's no way. I don't... You can ask my son. She doesn't even get in trouble. So I don't even know.
Your counterclaim's denied. You owe Mr. Heath $1,700, which is what he's asking for this assault. Mr. Heath may be a peculiar man. He may not have exercised good judgment when he taunted you by repeating your sister's name. It doesn't give you license to put your hand or your body, and you have a big body, sir, on another human being. You have no right to do that. As I said, there is no indication today that Mr. Heath is anything other than maybe a slight bit odd.
I resemble that remark.
Right. But that's it. And we celebrate that kind of stuff in this country. You have an absolute right to say to your daughter, I don't want you to play with Mr. Heath. I don't want you alone with him. Don't go to his house. But you can't put your hands on him. Do you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Rebecca Thompson is suing the mother of her son's schoolmate, Miranda Peters, for medical bills. Rebecca says Miranda's boy broke her son's arm while roughhousing.
Your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Just next to you. Who was the basketball player? What's your first name?
Keith.
And yours?
Michael.
Your arm got broken in school.
Yes, ma'am.
Your arm got broken when he bumped into you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
Well, I was trying to get into the game, and pretty much...
When did this happen?
March 17th of 04.
You were trying to get into what game?
In PE that day, it was pretty much a free day, and I was trying to get into the game, and they were pretty much just shoving me off.
Who was?
All the players. So I would steal the ball and run away with it, trying to be funny, and all the players would chase me.
So what I'm hearing is neither team wanted you to play that day, so you decided to play class clown and steal the ball and interrupt their game.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened next?
Well, all the players pretty much chased me down and eventually got it from me, and while I was standing in the crowd, he gestured for the other players to clear a path to me, and when he did, he tossed the ball at me. And whenever I saw it was coming at me, I just tensed up and turned, and it hit me in my left hip.
Didn't hurt you?
No, ma'am.
And then what happened?
I just sort of walked up to him. Behind him was a gym mat, pretty thick and soft. So I wrapped my arms around him and purposely fell onto the gym mat. Everybody was laughing, and he did the same thing to me. And
you wrestled him, then he wrestled you to the ground, to the mat.
It was not an act of anger.
Okay. So you weren't angry with him?
No, ma'am.
And you don't think he was angry with you?
No, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened next?
Well, there was a rolled-up gym mat close to the compacted bleachers to the wall, and I got in between that, and just for the thrill of not being seen, and about 10 or 15 minutes.
I don't understand what that means. Just for the thrill of not being seen.
Just a childly...
No, well, what were you doing?
Nothing.
You mean you were hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you hiding from?
Nobody.
Keith.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, I'm getting a whole good story. I love this story so far. He wasn't angry with you, you weren't angry with him, but now you're hiding someplace, and you're not hiding from anybody.
Well,
that doesn't sound like you could...
Well, I mean, me and my friend Anthony were both doing it, and he was behind another one to the right of me, and about...
What were you doing?
Just hiding.
Just hiding?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And, well, I tried to get out, and I pulled... It was kind of tight in there, so I was trying to wheeze my way out, and I pulled my my left arm across my chest, and about that time I just felt the mat be shoved into me.
The mat being shoved into you by?
By Michael.
And that's how you broke your arm?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Michael, what happened?
I rammed the mat. I wasn't intentionally trying to break his arm. I was just horseplaying with him like we were earlier.
And so you were horseplaying?
Yeah.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew he was there?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Peters, your defense to this says, let me read it so that I make sure I get your language clear. I told her that with children, and particularly with boys, these things happen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Explain that to me.
The reason I said that boys will be boys and that it wasn't my responsibility to pay for the bills was because it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it.
It wasn't an accident, Ms. Peters. That's your problem, you see. If your son was playing a game and during the course of the game he ran into this structure, not intending to come into contact with Keith at all, but it was during the course of a game and he was at a place where he could get hurt, that's an accident. But that's not what your son told me. Your son told me he saw him there and he was just fooling around with him and rammed him. Unfortunately, when he rammed him, his arm was in such a position that it broke. Okay. So his action, not in breaking his arm, I don't think he intended to break his arm, of course not. But he intended to hit him. And for that, he is responsible. Just as if his leg, when he tackled him to the mat, horseplay. But when young people are involved in horseplay, and if you had broken his leg, who would have been responsible?
I would have.
You're right. What were your medical expenses?
Before or after insurance?
After insurance.
After insurance, the total was $706.07.
I'm not saying that your son bears any responsibility with regard to this incident, but I believe he has to know that when 10 people are playing basketball, you're not supposed to act like a jerk, right?
Yes, ma'am. We've already established that.
Good. You know, Michael, sometimes when you do the wrong thing, things happen. There are consequences, even those that you don't anticipate. You got to start being a two-process thinker and say, listen, if I do this, this could happen. It's not worth it. Being a fool is not worth it. Being a fool isn't worth it. How long was your arm in a cast?
6 weeks.
And this happened in March, so it was during school.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't even get to relax. When did you get the cast off?
I'm not sure.
End of April.
So you got a chance to enjoy the summer.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You still friends?
I think so.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Judgment for the plaintiff in $706.
Tara Dotson says her ex-boyfriend, Jesse Harrison, owes for kicking her truck. Jesse says Tara got him fired from his job.
Ms. Dotson, according to the complaint that I've read, the defendant used to be a boyfriend of yours. He is no longer a boyfriend of yours, but you claim that after you had already broken up, he vandalized your car on 2 separate occasions. Mr. Harrison says that he did no such thing. When did you end your relationship with him?
Approximately around July 15th of 2005.
How long had you been together?
Approximately about a year and a half.
Did you ever live together?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
Approximately a year.
Did you live in your house or his house?
My home.
Who do you live with?
I live with myself and my children.
How old are your children?
I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
When did he move out?
Probably around June of 2005. And
why?
It wasn't working. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I felt like life was taking me in other directions, and I felt like I couldn't do all the things I needed to with him. He was becoming very controlling, very possessive.
Was he working when he moved in with you?
Yes, he was.
Did he remain employed during the year that he lived there?
No.
He did not?
He did not.
When did he lose his job?
Approximately 4 months after we lived together.
Were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a full-time student at IUSB, and I also tutor at Jackson Middle School.
Okay. When was the first incident of your car being vandalized?
September 15th.
Tell me what happened.
That day I actually had surgery at St. Joe Medical Center, and after that my friend Christine, she's right here, her and I and Jesse Harrison, we all went to my friend Heather's house.
How did he get involved with you on that day if you had broken up 2 months before?
I called him from my home and I told him that I was having surgery that day, and he asked hospital. And I told him I didn't care, but inside I felt like I needed him for support. He's been my main support person. And then when I was at the hospital and they were taking me to the pre-op, he showed up.
Did he drive you home?
No.
Who took you home?
Christine drove her car, and she drove me and her to Heather's, and he drove my truck. And when I left the hospital, I was upset that he was driving my truck. I did not want him to do that because he has no license. And when we got to Heather's house, we had this argument, and he got mad at me because I didn't want him to drive the truck. And he said, well, I was there for you at the hospital. And I told him, you didn't have to be there for me at the hospital. I had somebody else who could have been.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Shh. Come back to you. Go ahead.
And at that point, he just yelled, and these were his words verbatim. He said, who, Petey? And then he kicked my truck and threw a flower pot at it. And then he ran between 2 houses, and that's when I saw an officer on a bike, and I stopped him, and he made a police report for me.
Okay. When was the next time that your car was vandalized?
The next accident was on the 16th of September, 2005.
Go ahead.
Again, at that time, I was still under medication for my surgery. My doctor told me that I needed to do bed rest for a week. At that time, I went over to my friend Christine's house. Jesse was there, and...
How did he get there?
He drove me.
So you called him again?
I had to take my
Just
kids.
a second. So after you saw him kick your truck and throw a flower pot at it and report it to the police, you called him again to pick you up?
Your Honor.
Just a second. Is that what you're telling me? Don't give me an excuse. That's a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
When had you called him?
You know, I'm not...
That morning? The evening after? When?
I think it was the next morning.
Where were your children?
My children were at my friend Christine's house. I needed to take them some supplies, and I wasn't allowed to drive.
So you called him and said what?
I asked him if he could take me to take Christine some supplies.
And what did he say?
Yes.
You didn't say to him, I reported you to the police yesterday?
No, he knew. He saw the police. Why he was running.
No, it's not true.
He doesn't know how the police got there, madam. I'm asking you whether you told him that you had called the police the day before.
No, I did not tell him that I called the police the day before.
You just said, do me a favor, pick me up and take me over. How was he supposed to pick you up and take you over to Christine's house?
I asked him to take me in my truck.
You asked him to drive?
Yes.
So it was okay for him to drive without a license when you asked him to, but you were annoyed that he drove without a license the day before.
The day before, I did not feel comfortable being with him.
That's not my question. You told me a moment ago, madam, that the day before you had an argument with him because you didn't want him to drive your car because he didn't have a license. That's what you told me. But the next day, because you needed to use him for something else, you told him to come to your house, pick you up, use your car, and take you to your friend Christine's house.
That is correct. My children needed supplies.
They needed water?
Diapers.
Is she incapable?
She had 5 kids at her house at that time, and she couldn't leave.
License, diapers. License, diapers. You used him. Mr. Harrison, after you went back over there, her car was vandalized again, sir. Were you angry on both of those occasions?
No, I didn't. I wasn't angry. It's just that she was just running her mouth, or she wanted to go in the house, and I didn't want to stay there.
Why don't you work?
I was working for her brother, detailing cars at his car lot, until she came up there starting trouble, and now I just go from car lot time to time and detail cars.
Is that how you support yourself?
That's
Yes,
not
ma'am.
true.
What does he do?
Actually, he was working for my brother, and he got fired from my brother's car lot because he was being obsessive and controlling, and my brother didn't want to be a part of it. At this time, he doesn't go from car lot to car lot detailing. He
That's
frequently
not true.
sells stereos.
Ms. Dotson, although it looks to me as if butter would melt in your mouth and that you're a very intelligent woman, you're also a user. You used him like a rubber band. You say, get out, then come back, come to the hospital, I need your support, don't use my truck. Well, today you can't use my truck, tomorrow you can use my truck because I have to go someplace. And what I'm telling you is you can't toy with somebody's emotions like that. That's unacceptable behavior for an adult, madam. If you needed somebody additionally to give you moral support in the hospital and you had already kicked him out of your house, you don't call him again for the day.
Well, Your Honor, my mom is deceased. My best friend was watching my kids. Who else loves me? I know he does.
Just a second. Well, that's using him. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. He loves you, but you don't love him. So if what you're doing is toying with his emotions, because you're saying, I need you.
Your Honor,
Let's just listen. I need you. Now I'm finished with you. I need you again. Now I'm finished with you. That's cruel. And if what you're telling me is he loves you, and you know that, that makes you even the more cruel. You get me? What year is your truck?
My truck is in 1998.
And you have pictures of the damage that he did to your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please. And your brother has a body repair shop?
No, actually, my brother has a car lot. He sells
car
used
lot.
cars.
Does he also repair cars?
No.
No. That's too bad. Well, I get some stuff there to detail it a little bit. And you could probably get that dent pulled out by somebody for a couple of $100. Nowhere near $1,700. You have to learn to be a nicer person, madam.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff. Not for $1,700, for $300. Get your car fixed for that. That's all. Step out.
Jose Torres claims ex-girlfriend Janice Semeno threw away his belongings. Janice is countersuing for lost wages.
Mr. Torres, you moved in with the defendant and her children while you were separated from your wife. I assume this is your wife, sir, is that right?
Yes.
And it is your claim that when you decided to return to your wife and reconcile with your family, the defendant kept and or destroyed some property that belongs to you. The defendant says you had ample opportunity to get what you wanted. Whatever you didn't take with you, she got rid of. She is counterclaiming because she says that because of your broken promises, she lost wages. She's going to explain that to me. When did you and your wife separate, sir?
March of 2006.
And when did you move in with the defendant?
April, can't recall it.
June 4th.
And when did you meet her?
I met her through my boss, which is her brother.
When?
In May.
Where had you been living between March and May?
My mother's house.
So you met her in May and you moved in with her in June?
June.
First mistake. Where did you move in with her, sir?
And where she used to live in Falmouth.
Falmouth?
Yes.
In a house or an apartment?
An apartment.
How old are your children?
I have a 5-year-old and an 18-month-old.
Where's their father? Don't
Gone.
know.
Yeah,
Gone.
don't know.
Were you working?
Yes.
Who were you working for at the time?
Stop and Shop and Dunkin' Donuts.
Who was taking care of the children when you worked?
They were in daycare, full-time.
Was that subsidized daycare?
Yeah.
Okay. So you move in,
Yes.
and then what happened, Mr. Torres?
Everything was getting fine. I was missing my kids a lot.
You have to speak slowly, Mr. Torres, because I'm going to try to follow you.
Okay.
Everything was going fine. You were missing your kids a lot, is what I got. Now you're going to try to speak a little slower and keep your voice up so I can hear you. See how I'm speaking and projecting? You don't have any trouble hearing me, right?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Good. Go ahead. Everything was going fine. You were missing your children and
that I would like to get closer to my kids. And she agreed to move closer so I could be near my kids after work.
So you said, I want to be closer to my kids. I miss them. Would you move?
No, I didn't explain just like that. I asked her if we could. I didn't force her to.
Nobody said you forced her, but you said, I want to be closer to my kids. I want to move with you and your kids.
Yes.
So she moved.
We did.
How far away from where she was living did she move?
I don't know the exact mileage.
Time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
no.
a half hour?
About an hour.
An hour?
45 to an hour.
So her children also were taken out of daycare?
Yes.
And she didn't have her jobs anymore?
She had transferred.
What do you mean she transferred? What does
She
that
transferred her first job that she first had. Then Dunkin' Donuts, she couldn't get transferred. And then she transferred her kids' daycare vouchers over to a new one in town.
So she relocated her whole family because of you. And when did she do that?
We moved in December 1st.
12/1/06. So between June and December, you and the defendant lived together.
Yes.
And in December, you relocated this family to be closer to your children.
Yes.
And then what happened, Mr. Torres?
I received a Christmas postcard from my wife and kids. She takes my picture with my kids on it and my wife and cuts my wife's face off and posted it on the fridge. And from there, everything went downhill.
So when did you move out?
I moved out before Christmas. It was like December 22nd, 2006.
So she lived in this new location close to your children for 3 weeks with you?
Yes.
So what are you suing for, Mr. Torres?
Just all my personal property.
Like what?
So Nintendo GameCube, stereo equipment, clothing, hats, bed.
And how much is all that stuff worth, sir?
Close to $2,000.
How much was the rent on the apartment?
It's $10.30. I actually had subsidized housing, so it was $170.
So he was getting the advantage of subsidized housing. They didn't know he was living there, right?
No.
Because if they knew he was living there, it would have been $1,000
Yes.
a month, right?
Yes.
Between June and December.
Yes.
Now, what happened with your second job?
They cut my pay and they cut my hours, and I had no idea when I was being transferred, because if I knew that, I wouldn't have transferred my job.
Yes, you would have.
Well.
What, sir?
Excuse me. The reason that she stopped working for Stop and Shop is because of pay related. They did not drop her hours. She had the same hours, but it was a lot of money that she was missing up a week of her check, and that's the reason she quit.
So?
So she did not lose her job because of me.
She did.
Okay.
She did.
Can I call my wife up here?
No, I don't need your wife. You were a big boy enough to leave your wife. You were a big boy enough to have this lady with her 2 children relocate closer to your children so you could be more comfortable, so you didn't have to travel. So she relocated herself. Her 2 children, took them out of daycare where they were comfortable, where she had 2 jobs. Nobody's asking you a question.
Okay.
I mean, you knew that he was living with her, right? You knew
Yes,
he was
no,
living with her, right?
Not in the beginning, no, I didn't. But she also knew that we had problems previously, and we've always worked our problems out.
Listen,
she knew she was
Miss
getting
Torres,
involved with
Miss
a married
Torres,
man.
listen to me. Shh. I got what happened.
The story's not straight.
Miss Torres!
I'm sorry.
When you wake up in the morning for 8 months and you don't find your husband sleeping next to you in the bed, that's not a fight. That's not a disagreement. That's a separation. And while I think it's dumb on the part of any woman to get involved with a guy who's just separated from his family and dumber and uproot her children and her life, there's no question in my mind that you sent a Christmas card with your picture in it in order to irritate them a little bit. That doesn't say you're not entitled to do it. Don't speak. Don't speak. And I want to tell you something. I wouldn't have put up her picture on my refrigerator either if I were her. Put your hand down, smarty pants. So far, you caused a lot of trouble, Mr. Torres. You don't ask somebody to relocate their life and turn their life upside down unless you are 100% sure that you're prepared to make a commitment.
I was committed.
Excuse me?
Everything got a lot stressful when we moved in to Taunton from Falmouth.
You told me things got stressful when your wife sent you a Christmas picture with herself in it. And she cut the picture out, which is exactly what I would have done.
Prior to that...
Exactly what most women would have done. Cut out the picture of your wife.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Put your hand down and don't speak.
Prior to that, Your Honor, we were having the problems with her jobs. She was getting a little bit of stressful.
Was she stressful between June and December with her job?
No, she wasn't.
Because everything was nice. She had 2 jobs, she had daycare, then she relocated, and then she had stress. It was your fault. You get where I'm going, Mr. Torres.
No, I don't.
Well, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for your wife. I'm sorry for your children. You should get where I'm going. Bird gets where I'm going. The 50 or some odd people out here get where I'm going, sir. And if you don't get where I'm going, there's something missing up here. Now, what happened to his property?
I called him from my sister's December 23rd, and I said, you need to come meet me if you want your belongings. He said, I don't want them. You can throw them away. You can burn them. I don't care what you do with it. So I got rid of all his clothes, his hats, because what do I want with it?
When did you get rid of it?
Most of the stuff was on that day. I got rid of it.
Okay, because you were pretty angry.
Yes.
So whether he told you to get rid of the stuff or he didn't tell you to get rid of the stuff, you would have gotten rid of the stuff anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me about it when he left. Tell me about what happened when he just walked out of the house without his clothes or anything else.
He was a mess. He came back from work and he was drunk, and he'd tell me, going home to my wife and going back to my kids. And I told him continuously, I said, Jose, I'm not going to move unless, you know what I mean, you're going to be with me and stay with me. I'm not going to move to Taunton if you're going to go back with your wife. And that's what happened. He up and left.
It's a very stupid thing to do. And what
Yes.
happened to his entertainment center?
I have his speakers, and I asked him if he wanted them, and he said no.
Put your hand down. You know how much sympathy I have for you? That much. 0. Less than 0, if that's possible. You have his bed?
Yeah, what happened was when we lived at Falmouth, I got rid of my bed, and he brought his bed.
So you got rid of your bed
Yes,
and
I
took
did.
his bed. He doesn't get the bed back. What else?
There's the Nintendo GameCube, which my son plays with, but...
What?
I got a list if you want to see it.
I don't care to see your list.
Okay.
She threw away a lot of stuff when you left, which is probably what I would have done if you left. You left, you're not there, you didn't take your stuff, goodbye. Stuff goes in the garbage.
Leave, Your Honor.
But she has your speakers. What else
Yes,
do you have of his?
I have his VC like that.
Okay, good.
And his digital camera.
Okay, I want you to box those things and get them out of your house.
Okay.
Within 5 days, he's going to pay the cost of putting it in UPS or the post office or whatever.
Okay.
Excuse me. I really need to speak because he did not get the story out the right way. He's very nervous. He doesn't know exactly what to say. He was buying back his own property. She did not offer to give it back to him.
I don't care whether she offered to give it back to him or
He
not.
offered to give her money. She checked off that he could get his own property with police
Good.
escorts.
And
We
I
went,
went.
and she
Good.
said she threw it away.
Good. You said it now? You happy?
No, there's a lot more to it.
I'm not interested in a lot more. I got the general gist of it. Your husband?
You did it
Your
because
husband?
he didn't explain it right.
Don't speak. Your husband left you, not because of her, because he
I
didn't meet her for a
actually leave. I
while.
just got separated from her to take a part time from each other.
She kicked him out.
Just a second. Then if you need time, Mr. Torres, to decide what you're going to do, is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me? You needed time to figure out what you were going to do?
No, we just need time away from each other.
Then you don't move in with somebody else and dislocate them from a life. Do you understand that? Do you understand that?
I understand that, but I didn't do that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You moved in with somebody else. If you want to take time away from your wife and see if the relationship can be put back together again, you do not move in with somebody else just because it's comfy. Do you understand? That's
Yes,
what
I
you
do,
did.
but I didn't do that exactly like that.
Get mad. Speak up.
Huh?
Mr. Torres, your wife may not want to acknowledge it, but that is precisely what you did. She did not handcuff you and tie you to her bed. From June of 2006 until December of 2006, you shared the defendant's bed, you shared her life, you convinced her to move and relocate to be closer to your children. That's what you just told me, sir.
No, I
you
did not
told
convince her.
me
We
that you
agree
wanted
on.
her to move closer.
But I did not force her to do it.
Listen, those are the things that you're getting back. Period. End of discussion. Let me explain something to you. You don't get awarded money for stupidity. You don't pick up your life and relocate for a married guy. And if you do so on a promise and a prayer, courts aren't here to help you. You have to understand that. His wife doesn't get it because she prefers not to get it. He didn't go and move into a room in somebody's house while they were trying to work out their problems. He found it more comfortable to be in your house, living with you. And she thinks that's your fault. That's not your fault. She's angry at the wrong person. She should be angry at him because it was his choice to move in with you, and it was his choice to move into another apartment with you. It was his choice. He was more comfortable living that way while he was figuring out what to do with his marriage. So her anger is misplaced, and I don't want to hear about it. So you get your property back. The stuff that she just mentioned, sir. Other than that, you get nothing. I'm dismissing her counterclaim because, unfortunately, the law doesn't permit her to have a counterclaim for her own acts of misguided love and affection and your promises that you were going to be with her. Law doesn't permit
I ain't
that.
made any promises.
Get out of here.